Chapter 547, Chapter 547, Peering into the Sky. Chapter 547, Peering into the Sky. Is this what you meant by advising me not to be too confident? Nangong Yu saw Jiang Hao leaving and began to mock the Heavenly King. You are somewhat similar to the previous cell number 3 captive, but you are slightly better. She waved at him. However, you are not like me. Who dares to make me sit down and speak softly now? No one, said Hai Luo. Then, he looked up at the sky in desolation. It's cold at the top, and no one in the world understands me anymore. Little scum, have you ever noticed why your master didn't wave at you? Zhuang Yuzhen asked while drinking wine and eating meat. This was what Jiang Hao had brought for him. Do you really think waving at me is effective? Everything was an act I put on. Now that I'm not pretending anymore, I'm disappointed, said the Heavenly King. The reason your master didn't wave at you is because the people of the Lawless Tower don't value you enough. You still have a secret, right? Ask the people from the Lawless Tower and see if they are interested. If they have no way to pry it out of you, they will send your master to you. That's when you'll get what you want, said Zhuang Yuzhen. Nangong Yu couldn't understand these people, but she didn't care. Jiang Hao returned to the sect and felt somewhat strange. He had just checked the heaven lock technique. None of the theories were correct. How could the translated text be inaccurate? What's the problem exactly? Is there a problem with the stored heaven lock, or is there a problem with the Lawless Tower? Under normal circumstances, heaven lock couldn't be viewed at all. That is, the heaven lock technique itself was not the problem. He didn't think too much about it. It was better to have a flawed than nothing at all. He could continue to drag it out. In the following days, Jiang Hao would rest and then go to the Lawless Tower. Except for the first day when he sat in front of cell number 3, he always sat across from Zhuang Yuzhen after that. He wanted to try to overcome the influence of the Lawless Tower. For some reason, he even felt a storm and his mind was restless. The calmer he was, the more chaotic he felt. But even so, he didn't stop trying to harmonize with the aura of the Lawless Tower. It was just that he couldn't find a suitable method. He could only gradually get used to it, calm down, and communicate with it. Learning the heaven lock technique was more troublesome and arduous than he had expected. In mid-October, the sect began recruiting disciples. Jiang Hao hadn't seen any new disciples, but Nan Yushu and the others had seen them. There's actually someone with exceptional talent. Besides this one, there's something else we need to pay attention to. Nan Yushu looked at the list. Who is it? Kong Hu asked. Jiang Hao was also listening. He was also interested in the new disciples, as it was easy to spot undercover agents. Some undercover agents weren't worth worrying about, but some needed attention. The end of all things, the Great Thousand God sect, the Black Heaven sect, the Heavenly Saint sect, etc. all needed to be watched carefully. After all, many people came for the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. It's someone with a relatively advanced cultivation realm, Nan Yushu said as she looked at the list. I heard that he wants to join the sect. Now that the people from the flowing waterfall have left, he plans to be an outer sect's elder. Jiang Hao was surprised. He would be an elder right from the start. Although it was only an outer sect's elder, the status and position were still high. What's his cultivation realm? Xia Kun asked curiously. An outer sect's elder was better than even inner sect disciples. I don't know, but we might see soon, Nan Yushu said. Soon, 2 people flew over from a distance. Leading the way was an old man with an elegant demeanor, a youthful appearance, and white hair. He exuded an extraordinary aura. Behind him was a middle-aged man. He was wearing an 8-trigram robe with a calculate inscription on the front. Fortune teller? That was Jiang Hao's first thought. But the person's aura was stronger than his own, and it surpassed the soul ascension realm. He appraised the person. He didn't feel safe with new powerful individuals entering the sect. He needed to confirm it. Soon, the feedback came. At the early stage of the return to Void Realm, he is undercover in the Heavenly Note sect to investigate the reason for Dan Qing's death. Would be a bonus if he could also learn about the limits of the heavenly. Just as the 2 people entered on flying swords, Jiang Hao read the feedback. There was nothing else worth paying attention to, but Feng Hua's name made him pause. After searching for Feng Hua for so long, he unexpectedly came to the Heavenly Note sect. Hong Yuye's mission wouldn't be delayed any longer. After some time, he would be able to catch up, but the problem was that the memories of the spiritual avatars of Feng Hua were shared. Without cutting them off, he couldn't take action. Jiang Hao calmed himself. He needed to figure out how to accelerate the collection of the bubbles. In addition to all this, he needed to figure out a way to sever the shared memories. He could ask Hong Yuye. If she didn't visit him, he could ask Senior Dan Yuan. He would know how to do it. These things couldn't be rushed. Currently, the priority was to learn the Heaven Lock technique. He had a feeling that learning it could be surprisingly beneficial to him. Later that night, Jiang Hao went to the Lawless Tower. Zhuang Yuzhen and the others were a bit surprised at first to see Jiang Hao visiting the tower frequently, but they got used to it as time went on, especially since he said and did nothing. He just sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and meditated. It lasted for a long time. Zhuang Yuzhen realized that Jiang Hao wanted to harmonize with the Lawless Tower. However, his state of mind wasn't sufficient, and his control over his spiritual energy was lacking. On the contrary, it would cause the ripples to intensify. Around early November, Jiang Hao visited every day, but there was still no significant progress. I've said it before. Some things, no matter how hard you try for a lifetime, it's useless. Nangongyu sneered. This golden core cultivator has been trying so hard for so long. He hasn't progressed. Instead, he has been regressing. Look at the surrounding fluctuations. If this continues, he's at least on the verge of losing control and risking demonic possession. The Heavenly King and Zhuang Yuzhen were also surprised. They thought Jiang Hao would make progress step by step, but they never expected him to regress. Was the legend about to shatter? Although he hadn't done anything yet, they couldn't help but feel that the legend was not unbeatable. At the same time, Jiang Hao felt that he was in the midst of a storm. He didn't know when it started, but he felt a storm forming around him. It was getting stronger each time, and he had initially tried to suppress it, but he gave up. He let the storm brew. Sometimes he would suspect that his restless mind caused the storm. He had tried hard and attempted to control it. Finally, he understood something. The more he cared, the more his mind would stir. What he needed to do now was not to stop it but to observe the changes. He let the storm rage. He let it roam freely. Suddenly, Jiang Hao felt a gust of wind as if he had found a new world within the storm. A path appeared before him. He could glimpse the light in the sky ahead. The Heavenly King, who was watching Jiang Hao intently, suddenly felt a breeze. The others felt it too. They all noticed the source. The wind came from Jiang Hao. However, in the blink of an eye, the wind, like a great hand in the world, calmed all storms. In an instant, the storm disappeared. What appeared before everyone was tranquility, peace, and calmness. The sudden transformation stunned Zhuang Yuzhen and Nangongyu. They didn't even know what had just happened. How did everything suddenly calm down? Look at how surprised you all are. Truly foolish. Did you see me being surprised and astonished? I saw through everything, the Heavenly King said mockingly. I told you before. Don't be overconfident. Nangongyu was speechless. If she could leave, she would definitely send this Heavenly King on his way. Chapter 548, Chapter 548. Informing the Demoness about Jiang Hao looking at Nangongyu. Chapter 548. Informing the Demoness about Jiang Hao looking at Nangongyu. He is in the Lawless Tower every day. In the 100 Flowers Lake, Hong Yuye sat in the red pavilion. In front of her was a set of tea, with steam rising like fine smoke, occasionally swaying with the breeze. Baiji stood outside the pavilion, respectfully bowing. Yes, Jiang Hao has been in the Lawless Tower recently. I think he is using the environment of the tower to cultivate. The overseas cooperation had ended, and there was news of Feng Hua, so she came to report to the sect master. She also reported on the matter of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower and Jiang Hao. Normally, they wouldn't pay much attention to Jiang Hao. But his frequent visits to the lawless tower were getting strange. It needed some observation. Cultivating inside. Hong Yue's voice was calm. Baiji considered for a moment. According to my observation, every time Jiang Hao goes in, he meditates, and there are fluctuations in the surrounding aura. It indicates signs of deviation from the right path. However, this was just surface-level stuff. Since he dared to sit there, it meant that he had some confidence. Otherwise, the people behind him wouldn't agree to this reckless behavior. My subordinates suspect it's related to Heaven Lock. According to what a person on the 5th level said, Jiang Hao was initially looking at Nangong Yu. She is a member of the Saint Bandits. Hong Yuye lowered her head and looked at the faint steam coming from the teacup. What is he cultivating? It seems like he's just trying to calm his state of mind. Baiji hesitated. Should we send someone to approach Nim Anna asked. At that, Hong Yuye looked at her. What do you think? Baiji bowed her head, thought for a moment, and then said, I think it's not necessary because the answer we get is most likely about tempering the state of mind. If there was a secret, there would naturally be excuses, especially when the secret involved something significant. In such a situation, there was no need to ask too many questions. Moreover, from the sect master, she could feel that there was no need to monitor Jiang Hao too closely. It was easy to overdo it. Furthermore, after investigating for so long, no evidence of undercover agents or traitors had been found, so it was enough to pay attention for now. Hong Yuye picked up the teacup and let Baiji talk about other things. It seems something has happened overseas. After Heavenly King Bu Dong left the Sea Fog Cave, they left with his people overnight. It was urgent. The details are still under investigation, but the biggest gain so far is Feng Hua. Baiji glanced at the person in the pavilion, saw no reaction, and continued, if I'm right, Hai Ming, the newly recruited outer sect elder, is one of his great 1,000 spiritual avatars. For this person, the sect will arrange it in a conventional way. In order not to alert the enemy, the investigators have given up contacting him. The plan is to use indirect methods to find out his true self. It'll take some time. After finishing her report, there was a brief silence. Then, Hong Yuye said, what else? The gains from the Sea Fog Cave have been tallied, but no matter what, they are not as valuable as the Heaven Lock. They might be more practical than Heaven Lock, and the Saint Bandits have completely disappeared, making it difficult to trace their whereabouts. It's impossible to speculate exactly what they are hiding, Baiji said. She then reported on the situation of Yinshaw, but there was no response. In other words, she had to handle these matters on her own. On the 5th floor of the Lawless Tower, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged and opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was only calmness. A very strange feeling. Jiang Hao found it surprising. He felt calmer than usual and sensed things differently. It was as if he was in harmony with the world. It was a change in state of mind. He never expected that just calming down would bring such gains. The Lawless Tower was indeed a good place. At this moment, he looked at Zhuang Yuzhen. Senior, what's wrong? Nothing. Zhuang Yuzhen quickly returned to normal. But when he lowered his head, there was a trace of doubt and shock in his eyes. An hour was almost up, and Jiang Hao didn't linger any longer. He stood up and left. Heavenly King Hai Luo and others were puzzled. It seems like every time he comes here, he doesn't stay for more than an hour, and he leaves when it's almost time, Nangong Yu said. Heavenly King Hai Luo just gave her a cold glance and sat quietly. Nangong Yu was speechless. Not long after, Yinshaw descended from the upper floors. She had stayed up there for a long time. She had heard and seen a lot of things during her disappearance. This left her puzzled. The person clearly asked her to pass on a message, so why not just say it? There must be a reason. When she reached the 5th floor, she found Heavenly King Hai Luo. I heard you know the secret of the Great 1,000 God sect and the end of all things. There was a change in his state of mind, and Jiang Hao wanted to carefully sense it. But he found that this kind of thing couldn't be described in words. He could indeed calm his mind better and quickly blend with the surroundings. As for whether there would be ripples due to charm techniques, it couldn't be tested unless he asked Hong Yuye for help. Thinking back to some things Hong Yuye did in the yard, He felt that there was a way to test whether his mind would be calm. Let's learn the heaven lock technique first. Now that he was no longer worried about being disturbed by the lawless tower, he could try to observe the extension of the aura. But before learning the heaven lock technique, there was something that caught his attention. He looked at his interface. 95. In a month from now, I can attempt to advance. I don't know if it will clash with the heaven lock technique. The heaven lock technique would definitely bring many changes, but the cultivation realm was of utmost importance. For a moment, he couldn't decide which one to prioritize. Although there were signs of progress with the heaven lock technique, he knew his limit. To master it, 1 month might not be enough. Once he started learning the heaven lock technique, he couldn't stop, or else his previous efforts might be in vain. Jiang Hao made a decision. He would learn the heaven lock technique first. What if he mastered it within a month? If he didn't learn it within a month and didn't encounter any urgent situations, delaying it a bit would be fine. But if something else came up, he would abandon the heaven lock technique and prioritize his cultivation. The next day, while Jiang Hao was guarding the mountain gate, a junior brother at the Foundation Establishment realm found him. He was from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion. Senior brother Luo Zhong asked me to give this to you, senior brother. Chapter 549. Chapter 549. Letting go leads to heaven lock. Chapter 549. Letting go leads to heaven lock. Jiang Hao was quite surprised. He looked at the envelope in his hands. Luo Zhong sent me a letter. Senior brother Luo thanks you for the invitation you gave him in the past. He is finally able to repay you. The junior brother from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion took his leave. Jiang Hao also recalled the senior he had sold the invitation card to. I did ask him to do something. I didn't expect him to actually do it. After a moment of thought, he put away the envelope and planned to read it on his way to the lawless tower later at night. This little incident didn't interest the other three. They continued guarding the mountain gate as usual. At night, when it was time for his rest, Jiang Hao left on his sword. On the way, he took out the envelope and started reading. As he read, he was quite surprised. The journey was very well documented, with some twists and turns. The real story began when they entered the imperial city. Luo Zhong heard that someone was going to replace the royal family, and he happened to be discovered. The other party was incredibly strong. It was someone he couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, that person wasn't there to kill but to perform a sacrifice. A sacrifice of a living person. When Luo Zhong realized this, he found himself bound to a sacrificial altar pillar. The subsequent events were blurred. Many people were unfamiliar with Luo Zhong, and he only knew that the people here were attempting to take something from the royal family. The Shangguan family was cooperating with them. Midway, they were discovered by the royal family, who seemed to have set a trap, but these people had more tricks up their sleeves. They even managed to turn some members of the royal family to their side. In this way, the royal family was severely injured. At the critical moment, someone appeared. This person was as dazzling as a galaxy. However, a hand emerged from the void and blocked this powerful person. This battle lasted for several months. Originally, the royal family was bound to lose, but unexpectedly, someone else intervened and gave the royal family a chance to breathe. Thus, a balance was achieved. But the one who broke this balance was a man descending from the sky. He carried a poisonous aura and had an ugly appearance. However, his arrival was like a gentle breeze that radiated the brilliance of a sage and suppressed everyone below. In the end, he apologized to everyone and then left. Out of kindness, he saved all the people who were bound, including Luo Zhong. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised and continued reading. Soon, he read that due to his good luck, Luo Zhong had the opportunity to confront the person and inquire about his name. The visitor was called Shong'an. Shong'an is in the south. Jiang Hao instinctively stopped. He felt worried. He had sealed the charm goddess back then, and there was a certain conflict with Shong'an. If Shong'an came looking for trouble, he didn't know how to explain it. Originally, it wasn't a big deal. A person in the east and another in the south. They would rarely interact. But now that Shong'an had come to the south, it was a different story. Although Shongan wouldn't likely do anything, strong cultivators were still powerful and unpredictable. He sighed slightly. Jiang Hao felt that he should upgrade his strength as soon as possible. However, he didn't plan to change his plan. For now, he would learn the Heaven Lock technique first. The rest of the things weren't as significant. Due to Shongan interference, the initiative was seized by the royal family. And then, things calmed down. Luo Zhong also found the person he agreed to meet and left together. Now, he was living in a secluded place. Jiang Ho also wanted to find a secluded place where no one would disturb him. He would tend to his spirit herbs and find mines. Unfortunately, that was unlikely. He laughed at himself and then arrived at the 5th floor of the Lawless Tower. Upon arrival, he noticed that Hai Luo seemed a bit dejected. But there was a gleam in his eyes as if he was secretly pleased. Jiang Hao didn't know what he was thinking and didn't ask. This time, he sat cross-legged in front of the 3rd cell. Nangong Yu frowned. This time, she didn't feel anything. No storms or fluctuations like before. The other two also didn't understand what Jiang Hao was up to. This time, Jiang Hao found that elusive feeling in the Lawless Tower. But it was like an ordinary person facing the air. One knew that air existed but could never really see or concretely grasp it. Almost an hour later, Jiang Hao left the Lawless Tower, watered the flowers in the courtyard, and then came to the mountain gate position, closing his eyes to rest. He continued to sense the feeling in the Lawless Tower. Once he lost that feeling, all his previous efforts would be in vain. A month later, in early December, Jiang Hao looked at his interface. He could advance, but he felt that he was about to grasp that elusive feeling. It was possible to learn the Heaven Lock technique. Another month went by. In early January, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged in the Lawless Tower. He was calm and serene. Hai Luo and others were bewildered by Jiang Hao's behavior. They had no idea what he was doing. Nangong Yu didn't speak up, but she felt that the person staring at her was extremely unpleasant. Jiang Hao was unaware of what the others felt. At this moment, he felt as if he were standing in an infinite void. A wisp of white smoke floated around. This was the key to the Heaven Lock technique. Jiang Hao wanted to grasp it. He reached out his hand incessantly to catch it, but he couldn't get it. Although he sensed the change in the aura and understood the extension of the technique, he couldn't obtain it. He didn't know how long had passed when he put down his raised hand. He had gained some understanding and felt some relief. He then opened his eyes. The Heaven Lock technique that had been stagnant in his body began to circulate. Something was born out of persistence. The Heaven Lock technique was this. At the higher level of the Lawless Tower, Yinsho, who was resting, suddenly opened her eyes. She felt a sense of urgency guiding her. It told her to go and meet someone. She quickly left. She had always been curious about who was important enough to attract the attention of the person deep in the sea fog cave. Initially, she thought she had to leave the Lawless Tower, or even leave the Heavenly Note sect to find them. However, when she arrived at the 5th floor, she found that the urgency was intense, especially inside the 5th floor. How is this possible? Yinsho was puzzled. She had been to the 5th floor many times. If that person was there, why wait until now? It wasn't until she saw a somewhat familiar figure that she realized it. From the beginning, he had mentioned a figure, but others hadn't seen anything. She should have thought of it earlier. At this moment, the figure turned around and greeted her. Senior Sister Yinsho. In an instant, Yinsho felt the restraint on her body beginning to loosen. There's something I need to tell you, said Yinsho. It's from someone in the depths of the sea fog cave. He left a message for you. After all this time, she could finally say it. Chapter 550 Favor from the Saint Bandits. Chapter 550 Favor from the Saint Bandits. He had mastered the Heaven Lock technique. At that moment, Jiang Hao realized that learning the Heaven Lock technique was far from simple. This technique was different from ordinary ones. It didn't use spiritual energy but personal essence and spirit. To master the Heaven Lock technique, luck played a significant part, followed by the nameless manual. The previous reading of the Heaven Lock main text probably contributed as well. His gaze and perception seemed to have undergone some changes. It seemed like he could see people's innate talents and even interfere with them. For example, Nangong Yu's talent had been interfered with, which was why there were traces of Heaven Lock. Upon careful consideration, Jiang Hao realized that locking a person's talent was extremely difficult. Moreover, talents were vague in their existence, and that made it even more challenging. He could now understand why the Saint Bandits only sought cultivators to steal their talents. Manifested talents were easy to lock. Unfortunately, he had only just scratched the surface. It was still unlikely for him to lock talents, but the Heaven Lock technique wasn't limited to locking just talents. Spiritual energy, talents, and life force could be locked too. But how? The Heaven Lock technique did not teach him this. Everything was uncertain. This was not an ordinary technique. Something unexpected could happen. Jiang Hao didn't quite understand why the Heaven Lock was created in the first place. Was such a great talent meant only for stealing talents? What a waste. Of course, he had never thought of locking others' talents to use it himself. There was no need for that. It wasn't a matter of conscience. He simply didn't need it. While thinking about all this, he noticed senior sister Yinshaw. Originally, he wanted to ask about the situation in the sea fog cave, but before he could speak, she informed him that there was someone deep inside the cave who wanted to pass a message to him. This sudden change caught him off guard. Senior sister Yinshaw, are you sure you don't have the wrong person? He asked. Even after mastering the Heaven Lock technique, there was no resonance or change in his surroundings regarding aura and other conditions. So, he didn't have to worry about someone noticing. At least the 3 inmates in the cell didn't react. No, junior brother Jiang. I'm pretty sure it's you he wanted me to pass the message to, said Yinshaw. This surprised Jiang Hao and made him feel worried. There was someone deep inside who wanted to pass a message to him. This meant that he might have attracted the attention of someone powerful. He remained calm. What is it? Yinshaw looked at the prison cells behind Jiang Hao, then said, Can we talk somewhere else? In the corner, Yinshaw looked around to make sure no one was watching. Do you remember the figure you mentioned before? The figure. Jiang Hao suddenly remembered his experience in the sea fog cave and nodded. I remember. I saw that figure too, said Yinshaw. Actually, the reason we were able to get out was not that we found a way out ourselves, but because that figure helped us out. His purpose was to pass a message to you. As for who he is, we do not know, but he is definitely not an ordinary Saint Bandit. Jiang Hao listened quietly. He wanted to know what the message was. At this point, Yinshaw took out a piece of stone. The stone was irregular, and it was hard to tell anything from it. This is what the figure asked me to give you, she said and handed him the stone. He said, We will meet again. Thank you for your praise. Since the appearance of Heaven Lock, you are the only one who has praised me, and it seems like you are the only one who understood my discovery. Those were his exact words. I don't know what's going on. This meant that Jiang Hao had discovered the Heaven Lock, and he seemed to have seen the contents. Jiang Hao didn't immediately accept the stone but appraised it first. Jiang Hao reached out to take the stone. The result was somewhat unexpected. What did the person deep inside the sea fog cave want to do? He mentioned Heaven Lock but didn't elaborate on it. Yet, he specifically sent the Heaven Lock stone for him to understand the Heaven Lock technique. For a moment, he felt like he was being dragged into a whirlpool. He was already in the whirlpool of Hong Yuye. Was he going to go down the rabbit hole on matters related to the Saint Bandits? He did not wait to die. After examining the Heaven Lock stone for a moment, Jiang Hao concluded that this stone was not ominous. It should be safe to pass it on. He thought about what Yinshaw had said. The prospect of meeting again was not urgent for now. As for the praise, didn't I just say that this person had great talent? Is that enough? And understanding his discovery. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Hao couldn't determine if he had understood anything. It was probably a misunderstanding on the other person's part. At this moment, Yinshaw wanted to ask about the stone and the matter of Heaven Lock but couldn't say anything. The discomfort made her helpless. Then, I won't bother you anymore, Senior Brother Jiang, Yinsha said after hesitating for a moment. Then, she turned back at the last moment. Senior Brother Jiang, if you have time, can you ask King Hai Luo to cooperate with? I'll try. Jiang Hao nodded. No rush. Take your time. After that, Jiang Hao left the lawless tower. This time, when he rode his sword, he felt that he could interfere with the surrounding spiritual energy. It was a very peculiar feeling. Out of curiosity, this time he took a path with people. Soon, he saw some vague particles of light on people's bodies. It seemed that through the heaven lock technique, the particles of light could be transferred and dispersed. However, fundamentally, the particles of light were still in their bodies, and there was a possibility of them reappearing. This contradictory feeling made him a little uncomfortable. Recalling the theory of heaven lock, Jiang Hao could never fully comprehend the details. The total amount of racial talent was fixed, but the transferred talent might have a chance of revival. So, were these regained talents, or did they spontaneously generate? Jiang Hao gave up contemplating. This was definitely beyond what he could understand. For now, it was enough to know that the heaven lock technique allowed him to interfere with spiritual energy and talents. Not only that, but he also felt that his understanding of the technique and power had also reached a deeper level of change. The cultivation method and the Hongmeng Heart Sutra had also reached a new level, as if he had ascended. It seemed like he could start learning the second technique. On the way, Jiang Hao compared his current self with his past self. In the past, he struggled excessively against Tong Tian, but now he could handle someone like him much more calmly. At least, the immortal mountain sea shield wouldn't shatter anymore. Balancing the opponent's body didn't require using the heavenly blade to destroy it. Heaven lock might be able to achieve that. He returned to the mountain gate. Jiang Hao found 3 masks and handed one to each person. These were obtained when killing those who followed the blood wish path. They were just basic-level magical treasures, but their prices were still decent. Chapter 551. Chapter 551. Are you trying to use me? Chapter 551. Are you trying to use me? Xia Kun smiled. Junior Brother Jiang, no need to be so polite. Is there any difficulty you are experiencing? They naturally had to be careful in their responses when they received sudden gifts. If the other person wanted an unachievable favor in return, they would certainly have to decline politely. Jiang Hao mentioned that he had some issues with his spirit pet and needed to go back to help take care of it. He needed to leave for 3 days and hoped that his seniors would understand. The 3 of them accepted the masks with smiles. They said it was a small favor and that he need not be so polite. Jiang Hao felt reassured. The next day, he bid farewell and left. He had to go back and advance to the peak of Soul Ascension Realm. If he delayed, it would be a loss. The blue bubbles would disappear as soon as they were picked up. He went to the Spirit Herb Garden. Several months had passed, and the people here had almost forgotten about him. After a brief look, he noticed a few new faces. When he was about to leave, he saw Lian Qin. Junior Brother Jiang, it's been a long time since you came here, she said with a smile. I've been busy with sect tasks, Jiang Hao said. Then, he noticed that they were replacing the spiritual herbs. Junior Brother Jiang, did you see? We are nurturing new spirit herbs. Since you just came back, do you have time to see if they are okay? If there's any problem, we'll change it immediately, Lian Qin said with a smile. Jiang Hao nodded and took a brief look. There were no issues. As he was about to leave after escorting senior sister Lian away, he thought of Bai Yi. I wonder how senior brother Bai Yi is doing. I'll go see him after advancing. Bai Yi was too dangerous. His cultivation realm and talent were one thing, but the main concern was that he could fall into his traps without knowing. Now they only had a gap of 1 major realm, and there was still a possibility of falling into the opponent's schemes. Jiang Hao had to be cautious. Leaving the Spirit Herb Garden, Jiang Hao noticed some seniors flying on. Swarus Cnesky. It was a sight rarely seen. Is there something urgent happening? Although curious, he couldn't stop and ask people. First priority was advancement. Jiang Hao saw that something was guiding the spiritual energy around him when he arrived in the courtyard. It was like the convergence of a galaxy. It caused the spiritual energy to gather and not disperse. Is this Bai Yi's method? Jiang Hao wasn't sure if he could see it due to further progress in having mastered the Heaven Lock technique. However, he could tell that this method was profound and extremely subtle. Bai Yi is indeed formidable. He never underestimated Bai Yi and had learned to acknowledge the strength of his enemies. Blind self-confidence would lead to fatal disasters. Jiang Hao was taken aback when he entered his courtyard. Under the peach tree, a woman in a red and white gown was sitting at the table holding a brush. She was focused on making talismans. It was Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao didn't expect her to be here at this time. Although he wanted to test his mental state, he was about to advance, and he didn't want to invite trouble. But even if he was unwilling, he couldn't drive her away. He could only quietly approach and watch her create talismans. Soon, he noticed that he had seen this talisman before. It was the talisman he had used to merge with the stone tablet. After the talismans were completed, Jiang Hao's stone tablet was taken away. Seeing the clean tablet, Hong Yuye seemed surprised. Then, she raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Have you learned the Heaven Lock technique? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Jiang Hao remained calm and composed. Senior, you must be joking. Is that so? Hong Yuye smiled. In the Heavenly Note sect, how many people are at the early stage of the Golden Core realm at the age of 32? He was 33 now. It was a new year, so he was indeed 33. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. Hong Yuye wiped the stone tablet. You aren't young anymore. Yes, I'm no longer a young man in his 20s. Jiang Hao nodded. At 33, he felt that he was no longer young. It was only natural to feel that way. You don't look that old, said Hong Yuye. What I meant was you didn't have that youthful recklessness even when you were young. But there was still hope. Now, that's unlikely. Jiang Hao lowered his head. He didn't need the youthful recklessness in the first place, but when Hong Yuye mentioned it, he reflected on it. Cautious old man. That's what I am. Reckless and arrogant, full of vigor, full of passion, traversing mountains, rivers, and the earth, and renowned throughout the 9 provinces. Without recklessness, life was bland. However, it was not in line with his personality. Moreover, in the Lawless Tower, he had solidified his mental state and was even less inclined to be reckless. Hong Yuye handed the stone tablet to Jiang Hao. What have you found recently? I've gained quite a bit. Jiang Hao calmed his thoughts and immediately took out the Heaven Lock stone. I hope you can take care of this, senior. From the Saint Bandits? Hong Yuye took the stone. Yes. Jiang Hao nodded and then repeated what he had heard from senior sister Yinshaw. This way, he could shift the problem to her. Hong Yuye sneered. Do you intend to use me to deal with the Saint Bandits? Senior, you have misunderstood, Jiang Hao said hurriedly. I only thought that getting involved with the Saint Bandits would affect my time in taking care of your flower. Hong Yuye smiled coldly. She didn't say anything. Are you sure you don't want this? She asked after a while. I don't, Jiang Hao said decisively. Do you know what this thing can bring you? Hong Yuye asked again. I don't know, and I don't want to know, Jiang Hao said. All right then. I'll help you this time, but I'll need to take something from you. Hong Yuye said. There was an explosion. The Heaven Lock stone shattered. In an instant, Jiang Hao felt something dissipating in the heavens and the earth. It was difficult to catch, and the feeling was indescribable. At the same time, in the depths of the sea fog cave, countless tentacles surged. Each tentacle was covered in scriptures. But suddenly, all the tentacles stopped. Then, a phantom figure appeared above them. He seemed somewhat surprised. Shattered. After a moment, the phantom figure laughed heartily. This is crazy. Ha ha ha. Does he despise Heaven Lock, or does he want to comprehend it himself? Regardless, he is audacious. Someday, we'll meet. At that moment, countless tentacles surged in anticipation. In the imperial city, Baizhu visited the princesses. Sister, I have nothing in common with you. You're already 300 years old, and I'm just in my 30s. The princess pushed Baizhu out. I just came to see you and talk for a little bit, Baizhu said. I don't want to. The other sisters don't like me. You are even less liked than me. If they see you with me, they will like me even less than before. I just wanted to take a short stroll with you, said Baizhu. This was the last princess. Baizhu had visited everyone and endured their insults and their glares. Ji Xueji was even more unforgivable than the others. She had to find her today. Chapter 552, Chapter 552, Senior, I found you. Chapter 552, Senior, I found you. What are you up to, sister? A young girl followed behind Baizhu helplessly. In her 30s, she was quite young among the princesses. Because she had no elder brothers and her mother wasn't favored much, she was in a weaker spot. Although Baizhu wasn't well liked, she still had 2 older brothers. While they might distance themselves from her, they wouldn't actually harm her. Since Baizhu often went out, she didn't need to worry about conflicts with anyone. She, however, couldn't do that. Being younger, she was restricted in many ways. Now that Baizhu was trying to cozy up to her, she would definitely be ridiculed. Just checking if there are any suspicious individuals here. The cultivation realms of the people here are relatively average. A master like me can help you look around and be sure, Baizhu said as she looked around. She briefly stopped in front of each person and then moved on. Some people lowered their heads in worry. If they were branded suspicious, they would suffer greatly. Sister, maybe you should check the people around you. There are no wrongdoers here, the young girl complained. I'll take another look, Baizhu said when she saw the last person. Then, she furrowed her brows slightly. Are there others? She asked. There's one more who went to buy things for me, the young princess said instinctively. But soon, she saw Baizhu sitting down. Then, I'll wait for her. The young princess was stunned. After waiting for a while, someone finally entered. Baizhu immediately turned and used a secret technique. It was the last one, and there was no reason for it not to be her. Soon, a woman in her 30s appeared in her sight. She was holding pastries and standing at the door. Seeing the other princess, she seemed a little startled. Then, she greeted them respectfully. Baizhu looked at her. Even the younger princess was getting worried, unsure of what Baizhu was going to do. Baizhu sighed and stood up. The young woman before her showed no issues. Sister, I'm leaving, she said to the young girl beside her. The young princess was in her 30s, yet she was so small. The younger princess let out a sigh of relief. Baizhu was finally going to leave. Outside, Baizhu met up with Qiao Yi looking dispirited. Princess, did you find anything? Qiao Yi asked. The two of them walked on the road. Today, the sunshine was bright, and there was a subtle fragrance in the air. Baizhu looked up at the sky helplessly. Auntie Qiao, do you think there are other princesses I haven't met yet? None. You have met them all, said Qiao Yi. What is it that you're looking for? What am I looking for? Princess Baizhu thought about it and said, looking for luck. Luck. Auntie Qiao was puzzled. If I find it, I'll be lucky. If not, Baizhu sighed. Finding the person would bring many benefits. But for now, it seemed fruitless. As she looked at Auntie Qiao, she suddenly froze in place. Her gaze had been on Auntie Qiao. She wasn't conscious that she was using the secret technique. However, in an instant, Baizhu's eyes narrowed. What's wrong, princess? Auntie Qiao asked curiously. Nothing, nothing. Baizhu walked ahead absent-mindedly. Auntie Qiao was not surprised by this. They returned to their residence along the way. By the garden pool, Baizhu sat by the stone table and rested her chin on her hands. She was lost in thought as she gazed at the water. Who do you plan to visit next, princess? Auntie Qiao asked. After some thought, Baizhu said, why did you choose to stay by my side? Auntie Qiao? I'm over 300 years old and have no future. Huh? Auntie Qiao was puzzled. What are you talking about? Baizhu turned to look at the person beside her. I just want to know why. Maybe it's because I watched you being born. Auntie Qiao thought for a moment and said, Back then, I followed your mother, and since your birth, she couldn't bear to part with you and asked me to take care of you. Then, where do you plan to go after I die? Baizhu asked again. Why are you suddenly asking this? Auntie Qiao felt it was a bit strange, but she still answered, I don't know. I might leave. Baizhu hesitated for a moment before turning away. Auntie Qiao, what if I tell you that I am the first genius of the royal family in history? What would you think of me then? Auntie Qiao smiled. Don't you always say that, princess? Well, let me phrase it differently. Baizhu stood up and looked at Auntie Qiao. Senior Ji Shueji, I've discovered you. Jiang Hao looked at the shattered heaven lock stone on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. Although this thing was beneficial to his heaven lock technique, accepting gifts from unknown people could sometimes entangle him in unexpected things. Because of Hong Yuye, he was already involved in too many matters. He didn't want to be caught up in even more perilous whirlwinds just because of a piece of stone. The situation might be a bit troublesome now, but he could still handle it and figure something out. He couldn't overestimate himself. Otherwise, he'd suffer later. Hong Yuye sat down and gestured for Jiang Hao to make tea. Other than these, there are some discoveries from the recent gathering, Jiang Hao said after making the tea. In addition to the information, he also had 2 notebooks to show her. One was about everything he had found out about Feng Hua. The other one was a record of the gathering. Though she looked through them, Jiang Hao still recounted everything from start to finish, from Heaven Lock to the discussion about the ancestral dragon's heart. The ancestral dragon's heart? Hong Yuye closed the book with some interest. Has the ancestral dragon's heart really appeared overseas? It's hard to say. Rumors suggest that the ancestral dragon's heart could be a sealed item of the sacred bandits. Jiang Hao hesitated for a moment. But by a stroke of luck, I learned a piece of information that might be related to the ancestral dragon's heart. The person mentioned that to the east of the Heavenly River, there's the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. The Dragon Pearl? Hong Yuye seemed even more interested. Even though she looked indifferent, Jiang Hao could sense her curiosity. He then said _VPS_hilt all of this is rumors. Even if you know where the ancestral dragon's heart might be, it's useless. There's only one way to find it, go to the Abyssal Sea and summon it with the Dragon Clan's aura, Hong Yuye said. Is the Abyssal Sea to the east of the Heavenly River? Jiang Hao asked. Hong Yuye gave him a glance but didn't say anything. For a moment, Jiang Hao couldn't quite understand that look. Luckily, there didn't seem to be any danger. Can you get in touch with the person who mentioned the Dragon Pearl? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. I should be able to, Jiang Hao said. He didn't know if that fish was still around. Ask for more details, Hong Yuye said. Jiang Hao nodded. Wasn't the ancestral dragon's heart different from the Dragon Clan? He asked her, but he didn't get a response. This only added to his confusion. However, regarding the Abyssal Sea, he could go and ask the Heavenly King. The challenge would be how to make him cooperate. He needed to identify his weaknesses from the appraisal. As for whether it would be effective or not, that was uncertain. Which one do you want to choose? Hong Yuye asked as she gestured to the notebook with Feng Hua's information. There were 3 choices of communication listed there, so he had to pick one. Chapter 553. Chapter 553. Is there a heavenly king who would kneel and beg for mercy? Chapter 553. Is there a heavenly king who would kneel and beg for mercy? I plan to choose the third option, Jiang Hao said without hesitation. The third option was the most challenging and yet the safest. Plus, it offered the benefit of stalling for time. If he couldn't obtain the Thousand Faces treasure fan, he could use this as an excuse to delay the inevitable. He was aware of Feng Hua's clone, but even that was at the return to Void Realm. He wouldn't be able to do anything even if he had ideas. If Hong Yuye wanted to push him to make progress in the future, then he would have to reveal this. If he could point her to his clone, he could continue to postpone things. Smiling San Sheng is a member of the End of All Things? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Yes. Jiang Hao nodded. However, he was a bit puzzled. Hong Yuye knew about Smiling San Sheng, but she hadn't asked much about it in the past. Why was she suddenly asking now? However, Hong Yuye didn't say anything more. This left Jiang Hao with doubts, but he decided to see how things would unfold. After finishing the tea, Jiang Hao thought that Hong Yuye was going to do something. However, she just sat there and drank more tea in silence. In the afternoon, Jiang Hao sensed a pressure. He was paying close attention to every move Hong Yuye made because he couldn't fathom her thoughts. This made him quite worried. Hong Yuye finally looked over to him. A cold smile played on her lips. "You better not be patronizing me," she said. Hong Yuye's figure began to fade. Jiang Hao lowered his head and respectfully said, "Don't worry, senior." Watching Hong Yuye leave, Jiang Hao felt quite helpless. For now, he would put this matter aside and see how things progressed. If he was urged again, he would bring out the information about Hai Ming. If he followed him to find out more about the end of all things, he might learn who was behind the stone tablet. Hong Yuye's ultimate goal was to collect all the stone tablets and find out the true owner behind them. The real mastermind. This person was perceiving treasures all over the world through the cryptic messages on the stone tablet. After some brief thought, Jiang Hao observed the courtyard. Now that the array had been upgraded, ordinary people would find it difficult to enter. This gave him some peace of mind. After confirming the array was fine, he went to the cultivation room and began to advance. This time, he achieved the peak of the Soul Ascension realm within a year. It was much faster than he had anticipated. Now, if he wanted to advance again, he would have to wait for about 2 more years. This was with the help of holy medicine. Otherwise, it could take even longer. The next day, at noon, Jiang Hao walked out of the hall. Now, his aura was hidden, and there was no trace of magical radiance from his spells. However, there was a faint purple spiritual energy coming from him. Even the Heaven Lock technique had received some improvement during his advancement. Although it could interfere with others' talents, whether it could be used in actual combat remained to be seen. However, it allowed him to better understand other techniques and magical arts, which was an unexpected gain. Now that he had consolidated his cultivation, he could clearly feel that he could start learning the second technique of the Hong Meng Heart Sutra. Sitting in the courtyard, he first checked his interface. 33 years old at the peak of Soul Ascension realm. If all went smoothly, he could enter the Return to Void realm by the age of 35. Among the young disciples he knew, it seemed that none had achieved returning to Void realm yet. I wonder where I would rank among the top disciples with my peak of the Soul Ascension realm. He had surpassed senior brother Bai Yi. He had probably surpassed senior sister Yi Yaqing too. I should be in the top 5 among the top disciples now. After roughly speculating about his own strength, Jiang Hao stopped overthinking and began changing his supernatural abilities and techniques. The reappearance of the hidden spirit needed to be recharged. He also needed to restore the fight techniques in his wrist guards. After a while, Jiang Hao had restored himself to his peak condition. This level of strength gave him a sense of security. In the past, when he met traitors and twisted fellow disciples, he retreated. He worried at night that they might break into his residence. Now, he would still retreat, but he had the strength to counterattack. I should visit the Lawless Tower and meet King Hai Luo. Senior sister Yinshi had mentioned it earlier, and he also wanted to ask about the Abyssal Sea. On the way, he saw some disciples who seemed very busy. He had seen them yesterday, but he hadn't had the chance to ask them. I'll go to the Spirit Herb Garden and ask later. Jiang Hao arrived at the Lawless Tower. On the 5th floor, King Hai Luo seemed to be mocking senior sister Nangong. You. Jiang Hao's arrival did not catch his attention. Perhaps he had gotten used to it after a long time, and he assumed that the person in front of him was no longer a threat. Jiang Hao could understand. He was not sure if he could threaten the Heavenly King, after all. He could only try. Jiang Hao went straight to the second cell. At this moment, King Hai Luo looked at him. Heavenly King, I hope you've been well, Jiang Hao said politely. A mere golden core realm cultivator. I have seen many come and go. Each one of them wanted something from me. A golden core realm cultivator is just a golden core realm cultivator, after all. I won't give or say anything. King Hai Luo pointed to the shackles on the ground. Do you see these things? These can't contain me. Not my limbs and not my pride, either. King Hai Luo laughed heartily. Jiang Hao sighed and raised his hand. I want to discuss something with you. In an instant, the atmosphere on the 5th floor changed. Zhuang Yuzhen looked over seriously. Even King Hai Luo involuntarily stepped back, though he quickly realized what he was doing and held his ground. He raised his head slightly to show Jiang Hao that he wasn't afraid of him. However, Jiang Hao saw the worry in Nangong Yu's eyes. It was as if this simple gesture was terrifying to them. Nangong Yu was puzzled. What was going on? Clearly, nothing was happening. Why did she feel that he was dangerous? King Hai Luo laughed. Speak up, then. Jiang Hao sighed. He could only speak softly. The Heavenly King's fate, Miao. Anxian. The reason Hai Luo was here was because of Miao Anxian. It would be easy to take him out of the lawless tower and ruin his plans. He didn't know what would happen after that. King Hai Luo was momentarily stunned at Jiang Hao's words. Then, he burst into laughter. Are you joking with me? Is this enough? I've never seen anyone use such words to make someone submit. Do you think so little of me? I'm the Heavenly King. Is there a Heavenly King in this world who will kneel and beg for mercy with these words? King Hai Luo picked up the chain of shackles and sat on the ground. You ask, I'll answer, he said softly. Chapter 554, Chapter 554, Preaching and Teaching. Chapter 554, Preaching and Teaching. At first, King Hai Luo was full of spirit. Although Nangong Yu despised him, she also felt that this person was a tough man. But when she saw him sit down and agree to Jiang Hao, she was stunned. When he said he'd answer any question Jiang Hao had, she was even more stunned. It was completely different from what she had imagined. Zhuang Yuzhen looked unsurprised. But after a moment, he looked conflicted. He didn't know whether to feel the legend was still powerful, or to feel dejected that Jiang Hao was still as powerful as before. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Later, he would inquire about what the Heavenly King's fortune was. It might be similar to the favor of the earth of the royal family. Jiang Hao stood in place and hesitated whether to inquire about the secrets of the Heavenly River. After hesitating for a moment, he gave up. At least, he shouldn't ask it right now. If he asked now, he would have to inform senior sister Yinshaw and the others. The more he knew, the more he would be restricted from coming here. He would wait until later when it would be much safer. As for now, he would ask about the Heavenly River. The eastern part of the Heavenly River? Hai Luo thought for a while. Of course, it's the location of the Abyssal Sea. It's deep, and it's hard to come back once you go down. Jiang Hao nodded. He didn't ask anything else. It was enough to understand what the east of the Heavenly River was. It was just that the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl and the Ancestral Dragon's Heart couldn't be asked about. He stayed a bit longer and then planned to leave. The few people there were all stunned. Wait! Nangong Yu suddenly shouted. Jiang Hao turned around and looked at her in puzzlement. I heard the woman before saying that someone from the Sea Fog Cave left you a message. What was it? Nangong Yu finally asked. She didn't think it would be that person, but Jiang Hao's behavior today made her feel a bit strange. So, she had to ask. Jiang Hao wasn't surprised. Why should I tell you? I'll teach you about cultivation realms, and I'm very good at teaching, Nangong Yu said. Are you saying that I can't teach? Hai Luo asked. Jiang Hao smiled. Hai Luo made a good point. With Hong Yuye still by his side, what could Nangong Yu teach him that he didn't already know? Jiang Hao turned and left. You can ask senior sister Yinshaw if you want to know. After leaving the lawless tower, Jiang Hao found that he still had plenty of time. He could deal with some other things. As for Hai Luo and Nangong Yu, he didn't care. Heavenly King Hai Luo would cooperate in the follow-up and more or less would reveal some information. Nangong Yu was interested in the person from the Sea Fog Cave, so she might say something as well. Whether what they said was true or false would depend on the listener. At the spiritual herb garden, as soon as Jiang Hao arrived, He heard the beast telling Xiao Li about eating people. But it quickly changed the conversation to carrots when it sensed Jiang Hao. The spirit beast's perception was sharp. "Master, when did you come back?" The beast stood on Cheng Chou's shoulder excitedly. Xiao Li also ran over to him. She then looked around. "Senior sister didn't come with you?" Jiang Hao remembered what Hong Yuye had said before. Xiao Li told her that Jiang Hao was caught lusting after a disciple in the sect. Thump. He flicked her on her forehead. "Don't talk nonsense." Xiao Li rubbed her forehead. "Oh." Jiang Hao didn't say much. There were some things that couldn't be explained in detail. After telling the beast to take Xiao Li to find the fish, Jiang Hao asked Cheng Chou about his cultivation. It had been almost 10 years. Cheng Chou was finally about to advance to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. "There is some progress," Cheng Chou said excitedly. He also felt that he had a chance to attempt advancement. These years, he didn't dare to slack off, and he had senior brother Jiang to personally guide him. The progress was not fast, but stability was the key. Other juniors might have already reached the Golden Core realm at the age of 40, while he was still trying to advance to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. Although the gap was huge, he was content. He was even excited. "I still have some time. I'll tell you about some cultivation methods and things to pay attention to when advancing." Jiang Hao sat down. He explained everything in great detail. Cheng Chou listened with enthusiasm. Even some passing foundation establishment realm disciples couldn't help but stop and listen. It was rare to hear a senior in the Golden Core realm teaching a junior. It wasn't until it got dark that Jiang Hao finished his explanation. Cheng Chou couldn't absorb all of it, but he remembered it. After that, Jiang Hao took out some pills. These were things he hadn't used. It was useless to keep them, so he might as well give them away. During the time he was doing missions, Cheng Chou took care of Xiao Li and the others. These were nothing compared to what he had done for them. Seeing that there were still people around, Cheng Chou only realized now that Jiang Hao was already at the Golden Core realm. There weren't many within the Cliff of Broken Hearts who could explain and teach like this. "Thank you, senior brother Jiang," Cheng Chou said gratefully. At this time, some disciples around also respectfully greeted him and then left. When there was no one around, Jiang Hao asked about any recent happenings in the sect. Although he could see people coming and going during his guard duty, he didn't necessarily know the internal situation of the sect. "The Black Heaven sect is coming," Cheng Chou said. Jiang Hao was surprised. "Why is the Black Heaven sect coming?" The Black Heaven sect was an immortal sect, and the Heavenly Note sect was a demonic sect. The two sides had clashed several times. Each had suffered grave losses. Now that they were coming, it felt like something bad was going to happen. "Yes, it said that disciples of the Black Heaven sect are coming to exchange with disciples of the Heavenly Note sect," Cheng Chou said. "It should happen sometime soon." Jiang Hao lowered his head. He felt that this exchange wouldn't be a good thing. Perhaps the Black Heaven sect wanted to test the Heavenly Note sect's strength. If they performed poorly, they might take the opportunity to swallow them in one fell swoop. And the sect master who was in seclusion would also be exposed as having already passed away. Jiang Hao sighed. Hopefully, it wouldn't be like that. So far, the Heavenly Note sect had shown great strength. After that, Jiang Hao headed to the river. He needed to see if the beast and Xiao Li had found the green fish. He wanted to inquire about the matters regarding the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. The beast was swimming in the river, and Xiao Li was running on the shore. It looked strange to Jiang Hao. The dragon was running, and the beast was swimming. "Beast, over there. There's a big fish there. Is that your friend?" "If it is, we shouldn't eat it," said Xiao Li. The beast said something. Jiang Hao couldn't hear it clearly. These two seemed to have come to catch some fish, so they could eat them. At the riverbank, he saw a green fish swimming in the water and looking at him. "Do you understand me?" Jiang Hao asked. The green fish nodded. "Help me find out more about the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. If you need any reward, feel free to ask for it," Jiang Hao said. The green fish looked at Jiang Hao in confusion. In the end, it dived into the water and disappeared. Chapter 555, Chapter 555, Reaching Foundation Establishment Realm in One Night. Chapter 555, Reaching Foundation Establishment Realm in One Night. Watching the green fish leave, Jiang Hao had some doubts. Did it really understand him? It looked like it understood him. It didn't seem like a normal fish. At this point, there was nothing to worry about. If he was wrong, he could always ask again next time. There was no rush. Master. As Jiang Hao was about to leave, the beast leaped to his side. What's the matter? Jiang Hao asked. At this moment, Xiao Li caught a fish in the water. He didn't know how the beast persuaded her. Linji has some news, the beast said as it shook off the water. About Zhao Qingxue? Jiang Hao asked. It was almost a year, and finally, there was news about that. Yes, they said a lot happened in the tomb. Linji's other friend went in halfway through. He finally found Zhao Qingxue. And then, the two of them encountered the Guardian and, by a twist of fate, obtained some inheritances. The White Moon Lake finally has control over the tomb, said the beast. Jiang Hao was quite moved. Their luck was not bad. It was just that Lin Ji seemed to be excluded. He was only a burden to them. Sighing, he asked, has he returned? He has returned. The spirit beast nodded. Does Lin Ji know? He knows. Did he go too? He did but didn't meet her. Jiang Hao nodded. That was to be expected. It was not easy for an outer sect disciple to enter the White Moon Lake. Sometimes, it took great courage just to attempt to go there. With Linji, it would be like a poor boy visiting a rich manor. Everything seemed out of place. How is Linji? Not in a good state. Jiang Hao nodded. He could go and check in on him. Jiang Hao reached the outskirts of the sect, where the outer sect was located. Then, he walked straight into the woods. Linji was in there. On a grassy area in the woods, moonlight blanketed everything. At the edge, Linji was sitting against a big tree. He was lost in thought as he gazed at the sky. He has indeed grown up. Jiang Hao walked to him. When he first met Linji, he was just a little, frail boy. Now, he was much stronger in his 20s. Jiang Hao was used to seeing Xiao Li, and he thought Linji and the others hadn't changed much from before. Linji was startled. He stood up and saw Jiang Hao. Then, he greeted him. Greetings, senior. What are you thinking about? Jiang Hao asked. About my cultivation realm, Linji said. Jiang Hao looked and confirmed that Linji was still in the first stage of the lifeblood refinement realm. Have you been slacking off? I dare not slack off. Linji looked sad. Feeling confused about the future? Jiang Hao asked. Yes, Linji said with a bitter face. They say the heavens reward the diligent and that every effort yields a harvest. But I can't even protect the people around me. Everyone is moving forward, but I'm mired in a quagmire and can't free myself. My mother died after I left, and the old lady died in front of me. She believed I was an immortal disciple right till the end. I was powerless to do anything, but I thought that even if I couldn't save the people around me, at least I wouldn't bring trouble to them. Because of me. Senior Sister Zhao, Jiang Hao listened quietly. Linji had been in the sect for 10 years, and he had been stuck in the lifeblood refinement realm forever. Being able to persist until now was already very remarkable. He had faced ridicule and insult and powered through it anyway. Yet, in the eyes of everyone, he was an irredeemable waste. 10 years at the same stage. It was unbelievable. Senior brother, what should I do? Linji looked down at the dirt. He was nothing, and he could do nothing. Jiang Hao looked at him. You must learn to calm your state of mind even if you are despised or humiliated by others. Though the road is long, you will eventually arrive. Though the task is difficult, you will achieve it by doing it consistently. That is who you are today. Jiang Hao turned and left, but halfway through, he turned back and said, Remember, you are different from before. Linji looked at Jiang Hao in confusion. Different? How was that possible? But he didn't think about it further. Instead, He thought about what Jiang Hao had said earlier. You must learn to calm your state of mind even if you are despised or humiliated by others. Lin Ji gradually calmed his breathing, and under the moonlight, he felt refreshed. Then, he started the Star Moon Lifeblood refinement technique. Though the road was long, he would eventually arrive. Though the task was difficult, he would have to keep trying. His steps moved with the stars, and his movements swayed with the wind. The light of the stars surrounded him. Unconsciously, the pure moonlight shone on his brow. The brilliance of the stars and moon illuminated everything. In a moment, the moonlight moved with Lin Ji's steps, and the breeze blew with his hands. The spirit beast and Xiao Li, who were hiding in the shadows, were astonished. Spirit beast, what happened to junior brother Lin Ji? Why do I feel that he's different from before? Xiao Li asked softly as she held the spirit beast close. His cultivation realm is changing. The spirit beast observed carefully. With the appearance of moonlight, Lin Ji's cultivation started loosening from the first stage of the lifeblood refinement realm. Next came the second stage and then the third. He was now at the fourth stage. Xiao Li also noticed this. She covered her mouth in astonishment. Fifth stage. Sixth stage. Seventh stage. Eighth stage. Ninth stage. At this moment, moonlight covered the surroundings, and then began pouring into Lin Ji's body. By early morning, all the moonlight entered Lin Ji's body. And at this moment, his cultivation underwent a change. He was now at the early stage of the foundation establishment realm. He was at the first stage of the lifeblood refinement realm for 10 years. Then, he advanced to the foundation establishment realm in one night. By now, Xiao Li was already lying on the ground, asleep. The spirit beast struggled out of her hands and then floated to Lin Ji's side. As the process ended, Lin Ji, who had opened his eyes, was surprised to see the majestic aura of the spirit beast. Do you still remember what I said back then? The spirit beast said. Before you is the future demon overlord. You, who are destined to travel with the demon overlord, are destined for greatness. Lord Beast, Lin Ji lowered his head. The spirit beast had said it many times, but he had felt very ordinary. You must learn to face yourself. Come, follow me, and sense your own realm. The spirit beast's voice carried some mystery. In an instant, Lin Ji felt as if he were covered by a mysterious force. At the same time, he began to sense his own realm. However, he stood still. He was in disbelief. He felt that everything was just an illusion. Don't doubt yourself. Don't deny yourself. This is the real you. Those who can travel with me, the spirit beast, are the destined ones, the spirit beast declared with a majestic aura. Lin Ji looked at the spirit beast before him and knelt on the ground. Tears dropped from his eyes. The spirit beast looked at him. Follow me, and you will not disappoint your loved ones. Perhaps you can't imagine what kind of existence is standing in front of you. But one day, you will surely know. In the distance, Jiang Hao watched them and finally turned away. He deactivated the heavenly cauldron. Lin Ji's journey had just begun. Whether he could walk on it depended on his fortitude. Jiang Hao couldn't help with that. It was his own path. Chapter 556, Chapter 556, Unity of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 556, Unity of Heaven and Earth. In the imperial city, a princess and her maid sat by the pool near the palace. The princess, Baizhu, was playfully splashing water with her bare feet. She felt relaxed and content. On the other hand, her maid, Qiao Yi, was filled with worries. They had been sitting here like this for a long time in silence. Each waited for the other to speak. Qiao Yi looked at the princess beside her, who seemed carefree, and sighed heavily. Princess, what would you like to ask? Baizhu was surprised. Don't you want to know how I found out about you? Qiao Yi shook her head. If you want to tell me, you will. A senior told me. I always thought the person was somewhere else, but it turns out she's right here beside me, Baizhu said. She didn't feel anything else except surprise. This revelation didn't affect her opinion of Qiao Yi, who was still an important person to her. You seem to know quite a few people, Princess, Qiao Yi said with a wry smile. That's because I'm the #1 genius in the Imperial City, Baizhu said with a smile. Why aren't you saying you are a genius unmatched in the entire world? Qiao Yi asked curiously. Last time, I saw someone reach the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment, so, Baizhu sighed. I still have a long way to go. Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment? Qiao Yi was quite surprised. She was very unfamiliar with the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment and didn't expect the princess to casually mention it. Yes, but the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment is a long story. Let's not talk about it, Baizhu said seriously. Let's discuss the matter of the Saint Bandits. I heard that you know a lot about it. I don't know much. Qiao Yi shook her head. I grew up in the Heavenly Spirit tribe, so I know some secrets. Did the ancestral dragon's heart seal the Saint Bandits? Baizhu got straight to the point. Yes. Qiao Yi nodded. If he doesn't die, the Saint Bandits won't stop. For the sake of their ideals, the Saint Bandits interfered with all the races in the world. Later, the Shenyuan clan sealed them with the heart of the ancestral dragon, and as long as the Shenyuan clan doesn't wake up, the Saint Bandits will remain sealed forever. Now that there are signs of the Shenyuan clan's awakening, that's why the heart of the ancestral dragon is sealed. The Shenyuan clan declined because of this. Baizhu was surprised. Qiao Yi shook her head. It shouldn't be just that. Maybe they saw their own fate. Baizhu sat still. She hadn't expected Qiao Yi to know so much. What was the real reason for sealing the Saint Bandits? Baizhu asked. Qiao Yi remained silent for a moment before answering, because of their ideals. What ideals? Baizhu asked. Qiao Yi hesitated for a moment. Unity of heaven and earth. Unity of heaven and earth. Baizhu was puzzled. I don't know what it means. Anyway, they were despised by the world. Qiao Yi shook her head. Baizhu didn't ask further and instead inquired about the heart of the ancestral dragon. The heart of the ancestral dragon is breaking its seal slowly. It should be in the abyssal sea area, and it can be summoned by a similar aura, Qiao Yi said. Baizhu fell silent for a moment. What is the heart of the ancestral dragon? What is its purpose? Qiao Yi said, I don't know. You'll have to ask the Shenyuan clan. Jiang Hao returned to the sect early. His seniors politely inquired about the status of his spirit pet, and he could only respond that it was unharmed. Indeed, the spirit beast had no issues. He had made progress with the Nameless Manual, mastered the Heaven Lock technique, and successfully reached the peak of the Soul Ascension realm. He had even improved his light and dust technique. His current strength was far beyond what it used to be, and sometimes, he felt the urge to spar with someone. Fortunately, he managed to suppress these impulses. Before returning, he had checked on Bai Yi. Despite his injuries, Bai Yi's cultivation realm was still at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. Recently, there have been many people coming and going in the sect. I think they are preparing for the exchange meeting, said Kong Hu. I asked about it last night, Nan Yushu said with surprise. They said that young disciples from the Black Heaven sect are coming for the exchange. It said that many of our sect's elite disciples will be participating. It seems like they're coming with great enthusiasm. Xia Kun nodded. Yes, after depletion of our sect's resources, we've finally started to recover. Now the Black Heaven sect is coming. They must be trying to take advantage of our weakened state. Jiang Hao also thought that was the case. The exchange with the Black Heaven sect was like offering an olive branch before taking military action. If the Heavenly Note sect appeared weaker or had internal issues, the Black Heaven sect might launch a full-scale attack. However, Jiang Hao was not sure about the real intentions of the Black Heaven sect. Were they interested in the mine or something else? Actually, there's another theory. Nan Yushu hesitated. I heard some seniors say that the main reason the Black Heaven sect is coming is because of the Shenyuan clan. The Shenyuan clan? Kong Hu and Jiang Hao were both surprised. He knew that Shenyuan Tai and Shenyuan He were both members of the Shenyuan clan. However, there was a difference between the two. One had the blessing of the mountain and sea and the other did not. But it wasn't clear what these differences meant. Jiang Hao realized that he still couldn't decipher the words he had heard in the corpse realm. He had already learned a lot, but he still couldn't understand them. He couldn't find the correct. Perhaps he needed to learn more in the future. For now, he had to see what the Shenyuan clan was planning. That's right. Nan Yushu nodded. I heard that the Shenyuan clan has recovered their ancestors' legacy and is now on the rise. They are participating in the exchange with our sect to further their progress. But the Black Heavens sect has more than just the Shenyuan clan. Why would they help with this? Xia Kun asked. Nan Yushu shrugged. That's just one theory. In reality, many people are just curious about how the Shenyuan clan managed to recover their ancestors' legacy. Jiang Hao lowered his head. He probably had helped them with that. He didn't interrupt their discussion. After the talk ended, he focused on the second spell technique of the Hongmeng Heart Sutra. It was the Mountain and Sea Seal. At Flowing Waterfall, Wn Yangfeng walked along the road, his brows slightly furrowed. Are you sure this is the meeting place? He asked. Yu Wenjing was also puzzled. Yes, this is the place, but I don't understand why it's chosen. They had come to meet the person who had initially pointed out to Yu Wenjing that the fish person held a secret. Now, they had no communication but still wanted to meet with that person. A short while later, they arrived at the agreed-upon location. But there was no sign of anyone. Are you two looking for me? A middle-aged man walked out. He was dressed in Daoist robes and had an extraordinary demeanor. He was Hai Ming, who had just become an outer sect elder. Upon seeing the man, Yu Wenjing bowed in respect. Greetings, senior. Wn Yangfeng also nodded in greeting. He was somewhat surprised by the identity of the person before him. Initially, it wasn't mentioned that this person was from the sect. Is this the true disciple of Thunderfire Peak? Hai Ming smiled. You don't need to doubt my identity. I recently joined the sect. I didn't use any tricks. Chapter 557, Chapter 557, Lin Ji's Choice. Chapter 557, Lin Ji's Choice. Why did you suddenly join our Heavenly Note sect, senior? Wn Yangfeng asked curiously. I find it interesting, Hai Ming said simply. Have you found the fish person? No. Wn Yangfeng shook his head, and then roughly explained the situation. In fact, we suspect that it was Jiang Hao who let them go. It's too late to pursue them further, Yu Wenjing said. Hai Ming nodded. That's not without gains. If it was indeed the person you mentioned who let them go, the fish person will repay the favor. You can learn the fish person's secrets through him. I will make contact later, and if I gain something, I will give you enough reward. Of course, this information also comes with a reward. 2 expensive treasures fell into the hands of the two. In addition to these, there was also a book of techniques. Wn Yangfeng didn't care much about the treasures, but when he saw the book of techniques, he was tempted. Senior, you're too kind, Yu Wenjing said happily. It's a trade, and a trade naturally needs to be mutually beneficial, Hai Ming said gently. Senior, remember that within the sect, we cannot kill fellow disciples, Wn Yangfeng reminded. I've heard that Heavenly Note sect is indeed quite strict in this regard, but I'm curious. Do the people of the Law Enforcement Hall really dare to kill an elder for the sake of a Golden Core Realm disciple? Hai Ming chuckled. He was quite confident in himself. Jiang Hao did not go to the Lawless Tower again, nor did he pay attention to other matters. Most of the time, he comprehended the Mountain and Sea Seal. The Mountain and Sea Seal was a type of palm technique that could condense the great power of the mountains and seas and suppress all things. It also had extremely powerful destructive power. Unlike ordinary techniques, the range of the Mountain and Sea Seals was extremely large. It far exceeded any known techniques. However, it was also limited by cultivation realm. He might need a lot of time to learn it. Around mid-January, Jiang Hao gave up on comprehending the Mountain and Sea Seal. He found that the ability of the Mountain and Sea Seal was not only a palm technique but also a seal. It was like the universe in a palm technique. What made him more helpless was that he couldn't use this palm technique to refine his core at all. Sealing marks were temporarily useless. So, he gave up on comprehending it and decided to learn to make new talismans. The immortal peach tree would soon undergo incarnation, so he needed to save enough spirit stones. In the past half-month, what surprised Jiang Hao the most was Lin Ji. When he returned to the spirit beast at night, he woke it up and asked about Lin Ji. Lin Ji, at the Foundation Establishment realm, was not particularly strong, but he already had the qualifications to become an inner sect disciple. However, his current situation was not much different from the lifeblood refinement realm. He would likely stay in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm for a long time. But he finally saw hope. As for whether he would undergo a drastic change in personality later, it would depend on the individual. However, the spirit beast told him that Lin Ji cried on the ground for a day and then fell silent for 3 days. In the end, he asked the spirit beast to use its divine abilities to help him hide his cultivation realm. Jiang Hao was surprised but also relieved. Knowing how to hide one's abilities was a good thing. He was afraid Lin Ji would boast about it and inform his 2 friends. That might have been a disaster. Lin Ji knew that he had progressed too fast. No one would accept it. Even he found it unbelievable. He wanted to accept it little by little like an ordinary disciple. Jiang Hao had no intention of interfering with this. For him, it was actually a good thing. If Lin Ji remained unchanged, there would be no need for him to leave the mountain. But at the Foundation Establishment realm, even if he endured the beating of those in the lifeblood refinement realm, he would have no effect. How to proceed would depend on the spirit beast. In fact, the one who truly accompanied and taught Lin Ji and Chu Chuan was the spirit beast. Cheng Chou occasionally helped as well. As for Xiao Li, she just went over to help occasionally. They were familiar with each other, and their relationship was decent. For Jiang Hao, this was fine. Even if he left, it wouldn't have any impact. Lin Ji's situation was good for now, and Chu Chuan's was doing well too. Nowadays, Chu Chuan was indeed well known. He challenged people everywhere and failed constantly, but his strength was constantly improving. At the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, he was almost invincible among his peers. He had some of Han Ming's personality. Except for Xiao Li, no one's path was as steady and fast as Han Ming's. Even those with outstanding aptitude couldn't compare to Han Ming. His comprehension was high. He was diligent, hardworking, and experienced life and death situations. He was also favored by nature's blessings. Others might only use cultivation realm to improve their strength, but Han Ming used his own blood and the corpses of his enemies to enhance his strength. His refinement of spirit, vitality, and energy couldn't be compared to ordinary geniuses. His spiritual awareness was something ordinary geniuses could not match. He was quite childish and always hoped for an opportunity to show off. The easy way to handle him was to compliment him. Today, while guarding the gate, Jiang Hao suddenly noticed a group of people coming towards the gate. "The people from the Black Heaven sect are here," Nan Yushu said. "So soon?" Xia Kun exclaimed in surprise. Jiang Hao was also somewhat surprised. It was still a long time before the exchange, so why did they suddenly arrive so soon? "We haven't received any news, but usually, if they can come here, there shouldn't be any problems," Kong Hu said. The 4 of them didn't dare to be negligent. This time, it was the Black Heaven sect coming, and no matter how they got there, they had to check carefully. If there were any problems, it would be considered as being negligent in their duties, and the consequences could be serious. Soon, a group from the Black Heaven sect, led by a late-stage Golden Core Realm cultivator, arrived at the mountain gate. The 4 of them felt relieved because the group's strength wasn't that great. Jiang Hao saw the leader and was somewhat surprised. It was Sichu Jian. Sichu Jian also saw him and smiled. "Do you have any tokens, fellow disciples?" Nan Yushu asked. "We do." Sichu Jian took out an envelope. The 4 of them took turns to examine it and confirmed that there were no problems. It was an envelope from the Ice Moon Valley, and these people were going to the Ice Moon Valley in the sect. "Please wait a moment," Xia Kun said. He sent a message to the Ice Moon Valley. A moment later, someone from Ice Moon Valley arrived and escorted them inside. Jiang Hao watched them. He recognized a woman in their group besides Sichu Jian, the one he had slashed in the mines. A while later, after the Black Heaven sect group entered the gate, some disciples were dissatisfied. Did you guys notice that the people guarding the mountain gate seemed a bit arrogant? What do you think? Senior Sister Ren, a woman in the group asked. Huh? Ren Shuang was in a daze. It's fine. She had seen Jiang Hao, and he was already at the Golden Core realm. 10 years ago, he was just at the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. How did he reach the Golden Core realm in just 10 years? But they are just the mountain guards at the gate. I heard the demonic sect has a strict hierarchy, and the weaker ones are usually at guard duty. But before she could finish her sentence, a cold voice came from ahead. If you want to go back, I can send you away from the Heavenly Note sect right now. Inside someone else's sect, refrain from speaking inappropriately. It was Sichu Jian who had spoken. He didn't want to deal with these idiots. However, seeing Jiang Hao was indeed surprising, and he was already at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. When he was at the Foundation Establishment realm, Sichu Jian didn't dare to underestimate him, let alone now that he had achieved the Golden Core realm. Moreover, there was no enmity between them, at least not on the surface. So, they could still get along. The rebuked woman lowered her head and decided to discuss it later with other seniors. Chapter 558, Chapter 558, How dare you stop me? Chapter 558, How dare you stop me? Watching the Black Heaven sect disciples leave, Jiang Hao and the others sighed, then returned to their respective positions. A while ago, they were at odds with each other, and today they came for a friendly exchange. The Black Heaven sect truly deserved to be the strongest sect. They had a lot of courage. Jiang Hao lowered his head. If he could easily enter the Black Heaven sect, then he would have the opportunity to inquire about the whereabouts of the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Perhaps there was even a chance to obtain it. Unfortunately, he didn't want to go to that place, even if he was invited. He didn't know how dangerous it was. The Heavenly Saint sect, the Fallen Immortal clan, the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, and the Saint Bandits might all have their eyes on him. If there was a formidable enemy sent after him that he couldn't fight, it would be fatal. However, the Heavenly Saint sect should be the safest option. As time passed, the people they sent out became less threatening. At most, they sent a primordial spirit realm cultivator. Perhaps in the near future, the threat from the Heavenly Saint sect would disappear completely. The Sunset Immortal sect was there too. They had been watching him before for Senior Sister Yunruo. Over a dozen years had passed, and they had also come to their senses. It was not worth making such a big fuss over a deceased woman. Even if they truly liked Yunruo, it had been more than a dozen years. They gradually forgot about Yunruo, and soon, they would forget about revenge. Jiang Hao didn't mind. At night, the stars were bright, and the moon was high in the sky. Jiang Hao returned to rest. Even though the stars were bright on the way, darkness still dominated. A while later, a figure appeared under the starlight. Jiang Hao was quite surprised. As he approached, he realized it was a middle-aged man. He politely greeted him and continued on his way. It seems like he's deliberately waiting for me. But why? That person was Hai Ming, the spiritual avatar of Feng Hua. Hai Ming, who had been watching Jiang Hao, stopped him. Young friend, wait. Jiang Hao was quite interested. If it was someone who had been in the sect for a long time, he would feel more at ease. He knew about the Heavenly Sound sect's iron-fisted approach to someone harming a disciple, but Hai Ming had just joined the sect recently. He might think that he could kill a disciple without consequence. In fact, the Law Enforcement Hall was not to be trifled with. But the most troublesome thing was that Hai Ming might not know that the Law Enforcement Hall was not to be trifled with. Elder, did you call for me? Jiang Hao stopped and turned around. Do you know me? Hai Ming looked surprised. Yes. Jiang Hao nodded. I saw you enter while guarding the mountain gate, Elder. Because of your extraordinary temperament, it left a lasting impression. Hai Ming laughed. You really know how to speak, but I also know you. Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts, right? Yes. Jiang Hao nodded. He was just a little surprised. Why was this person focusing on him? For a moment, he even thought of Dan Qing's death. Maybe this person was here to investigate that. I heard that you are not well treated in the sect. Haiming asked. Senior, you must be joking, Jiang Hao said. I haven't been treated any differently than the others. Haiming smiled slightly. You seem to lack magical treasures and techniques. My master has provided and taught me well, Jiang Hao said. Is that so? Haiming took out a book. I like to make deals with people, fair deals. If you can tell me just one thing, this book, for Extreme Autumn Kill, will be yours. This is a blade technique, and I heard you use a blade. Jiang Hao felt strange. Could the 4 Extreme Autumn Kill be more powerful than any move from the 7 forms of Heavenly Blade? However, he still pretended to be interested and said, Senior, what do you want to ask? I want to ask, young friend, if you have ever seen a fish person, Haiming said softly. So, that was it. Jiang Hao said, no. He couldn't hesitate about this matter. If discovered, it would cause big trouble. In that case, let's change the question, Haiming said. I heard that the fish people are grateful people. If you help them, you will receive their gratitude later. Young friend, what do you think this token of gratitude might be? Jiang Hao's heart sank, but he kept a calm face. I don't know. Is that so? Haiming narrowed his eyes. Well, if one day you find out, you can come and find me. Feel free to ask for anything. Jiang Hao thanked him and then bid farewell and left. He maintained a steady speed on his flying sword and moved away from the other party. However, he felt Haiming's gaze from behind. It seems he suspects I know the secret of the fish people. How did he find out? Besides the fish people and Wu Yong, no one should be aware of this. Maybe it's just a guess. Maybe he only suspects me. I can't have conflicts with him now. Maybe I can hold off for a few more years. Jiang Hao felt it was unlikely. He could only wait to see what the other party would do next. In the following days, he didn't see Haiming again. Instead, he saw many people from the Black Heaven sect. They could only enter if they had a token. Otherwise, they would be intercepted. It wasn't the time for the meeting yet, so they couldn't just let the Black Heaven sect's people in without restrictions. Who knew what they were up to? If they had a token, once something happened, it wouldn't be their responsibility. They followed the procedure. It had become routine for Black Heaven sect members to come, so Jiang Hao and the others decided to have one person on duty each day. In early February, it was Jiang Hao's turn to guard. There were no problems in the morning. At noon, the other 3 were immersed in their cultivation. Jiang Hao didn't pay much attention and continued to observe his surroundings. After a while, a group of people arrived. They were from the Black Heaven sect. Following the usual practice, Jiang Hao checked their tokens and then called for someone to escort them away. There was no issue. However, after these people had left for a long time, suddenly one person rushed over. He was about to enter the mountain gate. Jiang Hao stopped him. Friend, please wait. He appeared in front of the person. Get out of the way, said the man angrily. Jiang Hao wasn't surprised, but he looked at him carefully. The man was wearing the Black Heaven sect attire. He looked like 27 or 28 years old and at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. His belt was a pretty good magical treasure. Judging by his appearance and attire, his status seemed quite decent. He must have been blinded by his status, otherwise, he wouldn't ignore the rules of the Heavenly Note sect. Seeing that the man was determined to barge in, Jiang Hao expanded his aura and said, Friend, this is the Heavenly Note sect. What's the matter with the Heavenly Note sect? The man who was stopped didn't look pleased. For other sects to enter, they need a token, Jiang Hao politely said. What? Do you have the authority to check me? The man sneered. I was invited by one of your branch masters. Do you, a gatekeeper, dare to stop me? Chapter 559, Chapter 559, Unexpectedly Killed. Chapter 559, Unexpectedly Killed. Jiang Hao looked at the person in front of him. He was unsure of what to say. He truly was just a gatekeeper. His status and position were not that high. Some of the invited guests could cause significant trouble if offended. But if he let someone in like this and something went wrong, it would be his responsibility. However, if the person really had a formidable background, it would be equally troublesome to stop them. "Friend, which branch invited you?" Jiang Hao asked politely. "I can deliver a message to them and have them come to receive you." "What? Don't you believe me?" The man looked at him disdainfully. "I made it this far. Doesn't that prove everything?" "But a token is required to enter this gate," Jiang Hao said. He didn't want to be involved, but fate had decided it would be him today. These people were the most difficult. Couldn't they just show their tokens? If they didn't want that, the least they could do was wait till he called the branch disciple who invited him. But this man didn't budge. He just asked whether Jiang Hao believed him or not. "Does everyone need a token to enter?" Murong Jing asked. "If your elders' partners are from other sects, would you still stop them because they don't have a token? You could just nod and allow them to enter." Jiang Hao looked at the man in confusion. Was he here to demonstrate his superiority in the Heavenly Note sect? An elder's partner would likely be at least at the return to void or higher realms. Who would dare to stop them? If the person in front of them was an immortal Ascension realm expert, Jiang Hao would have to ask relevant questions. He was helpless. Even if he was only at the early stage of the Golden Core realm, he couldn't back down. "Perhaps, friend, you can try contacting someone inside the gate. If it's not convenient, you can give me a name, and I'll help you get in touch," Jiang Hao said politely. "Do you have authority here?" Murong Jing sneered. Jiang Hao remained silent. "Are you adamant about not letting me in?" Murong Jing asked again. Jiang Hao was just doing his duty. But after a short while, two people flew from a distance. One was wearing the Black Heaven sect attire, and the other was wearing the Heavenly Note sect attire. Both of them were young and very powerful. They were both at the Soul Ascension realm. "Junior brother Murong, why are you still outside?" the Black Heaven sect expert asked. "I wanted to go in, but unfortunately, someone doesn't intend to let me in." Murong Jing pointed at Jiang Hao. The others looked at him. In response, Jiang Hao could only explain that he was only asking for a token. "I'll take him in," the Heavenly Note sect expert said. Jiang Hao had no choice but to step aside. "Why aren't you demanding tokens now?" Murong Jing asked. "If you don't want it, I'll just go in." Jiang Hao remained silent. He could only watch as they left. Later, he returned to his position and continued to wait for the next group of people. Nan Yushu and others nearby were done with their cultivation, but they didn't dare speak up in front of such powerful experts. They could only watch Jiang Hao being ridiculed. At night, some of the Black Heaven sect members gathered together. They seemed dissatisfied with the gatekeepers of the Heavenly Note sect. The gatekeepers of the Heavenly Note sect seemed to have quite an attitude. "Yeah, they wouldn't let me in earlier. Is this how they treat guests?" Murong Jing spoke up. "Do the gatekeepers of the Heavenly Note sect have a big reputation? I didn't see them speaking up in front of senior brother Luo." "Which one are you talking about?" a woman asked. "The one in the early stage of the Golden Core realm." "I don't know his name," Murong Jing said. "His name is Jiang Hao. I know him, and I also know where he lives. Do you want to go and teach him a lesson?" said a woman with a mole on her eye. "How do you know where he lives?" another woman asked. "Forget about that. Should we go or not?" "Let's go out tomorrow and go in again to see if he still dares to be arrogant," said the woman with the mole. "Just teaching him a lesson? Too polite. This is a demonic sect. It's okay to be a little dramatic. Later, I will go and crush his mouth and severely damage his cultivation. Let's see if he dares to be arrogant then," Murong Jing said. "In the demonic path, anyone who offends is punished," said the woman with the mole. Some others were a bit worried. Is this really appropriate? However, their voices were drowned out. "Then, let's set off now. Junior sister, lead the way," Murong Jing said with a playful smile. A group of people was about to set off to cleanse evil and uphold righteousness. But before they could move, a figure suddenly descended. He stood in front of Murong Jing and, with lightning-fast speed, swung a blade. He used the demonic sound slash. Boom. Murong Jing hadn't even reacted yet and was already killed by a single strike. Blood splattered. Everyone else was stunned in place. When they finally reacted, the person had already taken away Murong Jing's storage magic treasure and other treasures from his body. Only then did everyone realize what had happened. They started to flee. Most of them rushed toward their senior's residence. The woman with the mole was a little surprised and was about to follow everyone. But as she tried to leave, she suddenly felt the surroundings go quiet. She was the only one in the entire forest. She knew she was being targeted. Who's there? Show yourself. The surroundings fell silent. Who do you think you are? I'm a disciple of the Black Heaven sect. Killing me will definitely cause a conflict between the two sects. Before she could finish her words, a long blade swept across her neck. In the end, she didn't know how or why she died. Jiang Hao frowned. This person was an undercover agent from the Heavenly Saint sect. Originally, she was in the Black Heaven sect but unexpectedly came to the Heavenly Sound sect. So, he was trying to incite some people to kill him to explore the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. It seems like there aren't many undercover agents from the Heavenly Saint sect left in the Heavenly Note sect. In order to ensure peace in the future, he could only make the other person give up this idea. After taking away the heavenly cauldron, Jiang Hao looked at Murong Jing's body in a daze. He wasn't the one who killed this person. By the time he arrived, it was already too late. He didn't even get to see the person who had acted. He had arrived to teach these people a lesson to show them that this was a demonic sect, not an immortal sect like theirs. But it seemed like someone didn't think so. The unknown person had used the demonic sound slash to frame him. I didn't expect a simple matter to become so complicated. Jiang Hao sighed and turned to leave. Later, he heard a roar. The aura expanded. It indicated a soul ascension realm cultivation. Jiang Hao felt helpless. He didn't actually kill the person, and he had no idea who was so brazen. But this other person certainly didn't act on his behalf. If that were the case, why use the demonic sound slash? He didn't know how things would unfold tomorrow. Back in the courtyard, Jiang Hao sighed. The traitor's storage treasure was virtually empty. There were only about 100 spirit stones. If he hadn't noticed the suspicious expression of the other party, he would have missed it. It seemed that there were quite a few undercover agents from the Black Heaven sect, and it was possible they were deliberately sent to the Heavenly Note sect. Master, the fish is looking for you again. The spirit beast ran in holding the green fish. It seemed like it wanted to say something. Its mouth was opening and closing. Chapter 560, Drawing the Sword. Chapter 560, Drawing the Sword. A spirit beast holding a fish made Jiang Hao feel strange. However, considering this spirit beast was a primordial spirit realm demon, it seemed normal upon reflection. Looking at the open-mouthed green fish, Jiang Hao fell silent for a moment. He wanted to appraise the fish. He didn't know what the green fish wanted to say, so he would have to wait. After hesitating for a moment, Jiang Hao said to the green fish, "Do you have something to say?" They stared at each other for a while. "Master, what are you doing?" asked the spirit beast. Jiang Hao remained silent for a moment, then walked toward the riverbank. "Come here." Put the fish back in the water. Perhaps it could speak in the water. Splash. The green fish was thrown back into the river. Now, it was happily swimming and started to blow bubbles. These bubbles were arranged in a pattern. But they were quickly dispersed by the flowing water. The once cheerful green fish looked anxious. Jiang Hao gently waved his hand, and the river water around the green fish stopped flowing. It seemed to stand alone from the river. The green fish began happily blowing bubbles again. Soon, these bubbles formed a sentence. "Benefactor, what do you want?" Jiang Hao narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Why did it seem like the fish thought he was asking for a reward? He didn't have to ask about the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl, the fish already knew it. So, why did the fish ask what he wanted? Jiang Hao couldn't help but marvel at the fish's somewhat limited intelligence. He sighed and conveyed his message. He didn't want any reward. For now, he would stick to just that. Otherwise, it could easily lead to misunderstandings. After restoring the river water, Jiang Hao let the green fish leave. The spirit beast was silent for a moment. Master, it can read. Don't you know how to read? Jiang Hao asked. Everybody knows about me. I don't have to bother, said the spirit beast. Jiang Hao glanced at it and didn't say much. This was a primordial spirit realm demon, and there was no reason for it to learn to read. After drawing some talismans in the courtyard, Jiang Hao left for the mountain gate. However, before leaving, he asked about Linji's situation. I had him go mining, said the spirit beast indifferently. Mining? Jiang Hao was surprised. Yeah, to the mining cave. There are more people to beat him there, which can improve his ability to withstand beatings, the spirit beast said. Jiang Hao fell silent for a moment. In the end, he didn't ask how it sent him there. It would only spout some nonsense about being a great demon. Jiang Hao wished he could go to the mines too. But he would only be able to go if his master or a senior assigned him. However, if he went there, he might attract the attention of Hong Yuye. The next day, Jiang Hao was waiting for news. The Black Heaven sect would definitely not let this matter slide. Having lost an important person, they would definitely find a scapegoat. The people from the Law Enforcement Hall would have to give an explanation. Otherwise, things might break down and could easily lead to a direct war. The Heavenly Note sect was unwilling to engage in major conflicts. However, just as dawn was breaking, Jiang Hao didn't wait for the people from the Law Enforcement Hall. Instead, he encountered people from the Black Heaven sect. A sword descended from the sky. An angry man flew down on it. You monster, prepare to die. Light blossomed, and the momentum surged as it targeted Jiang Hao. Facing this sudden attack, Nan Yushu and the others were quite surprised. They had no idea why this person was attacking them. Jiang Hao understood, but he pretended to be confused. Yet even if he was confused, he couldn't just let himself be slaughtered. Clang. The half-moon blade came out of its sheath. He used demonic sound slash. Boom. The light sword attacked, and the two forces nullified each other. The tremendous impact made him retreat a bit. At this point, he finally got a clear look at the assailant. It was a young man. He was standing in midair, with various spiritual lights around him. His aura was immense. His eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness as he held his sword ready. Jiang Hao knew that this was an impulsive disciple, but no one stopped him, which was surprising. Demonic sound slash. It was indeed you, said the person confidently. Friend, is there a misunderstanding between us? Jiang Hao said politely. Misunderstanding? You monster of the demonic path. Today, I will avenge junior brother Murong, the person said. He looked at the people behind him. Fellow juniors, follow me to subdue this monster. There were a total of 6 people. The weakest was at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm. They all responded with an affirmative and came to stand behind their senior. They all unsheathed their long swords, and for a moment, the 7 swords united to form an attack formation. A powerful aura erupted. They pointed their swords at Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao furrowed his brow. It was unbelievable. They were so impulsive that they would attempt to kill him based solely on a demon sound slash technique that might have been used by anyone. They really didn't regard themselves as outsiders. However, such an attack couldn't be brushed under the rug. The flash of swords came towards him, and Jiang Hao frowned. The demonic sound slash operated at full speed. The half-moon blade swung and attacked. He was constantly forced back, but they didn't deal any substantial damage. He could only counterattack during brief pauses. The 7 sword strikes were indeed formidable and almost flawless. They hardly left him with any opening. Sword light and sword shadows collided and burst with power in midair. The people below were somewhat surprised. Nan Yushu and the others didn't rush to make a move. They wanted to see how this would unfold. More importantly, they didn't know what had happened, and intervening rashly could easily cause trouble. It seems that Jiang Hao was about to be defeated. He's very strong. Even if he is defeated, it would be justified, said Kong Hu. For we're at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. So many people had joined to defeat one person. It was admirable on Jiang Hao's part. I've always heard that the Blood Wish path can help with a rapid breakthrough in cultivation but has an unstable foundation. Now it seems that was a bit inaccurate, Xia Kun said. Clang. There was a collision of swords and a blade in the air. At that moment, Jiang Hao finally saw the opponent's weakness. Instead of retreating, he moved forward, evaded the opponent's attack, and arrived next to the opponent. He then swung his blade. The half-moon blade descended, swiftly and decisively. It severed the hand of the man holding the sword. The sudden change left the opponent astonished. They were unable to understand what had happened. However, anger filled his eyes. When he was about to counter with his techniques, moonlight emerged. A cut shattered his neck, and blood gushed out. Immediately, a figure appeared above him, and a foot stepped on his head. Bam! The man lost his balance and fell to the ground heavily. Weakness and intense pain turned into fear and spread throughout his body. It seemed that everything was happening beyond his expectations. Blood began to spread. He felt death approaching. Chapter 561, Chapter 561, Invincible. Chapter 561, Invincible. Jiang Hao moved quickly. In the moment of crushing the first early-stage Golden Core realm opponent, he had already acted on his next attack. While they were still maintaining the crumbling Seven Swords formation, Jiang Hao used the demonic sound slash, enhanced by the 1,000 demonic tones. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the second Golden Core opponent. He slashed at the opponent's abdomen with his blade. With a crisp sound, the defensive magical treasure shattered. In the moment of the opponent's shock, the moonlight appeared again. Blood splattered on the ground. The opponent covered his neck but fell with a thud. 2 Golden Core realm opponents were defeated consecutively, and the Seven Swords formation finally collapsed. However, Jiang Hao had already reached the third Golden Core opponent. Just as she was about to defend herself, a long sword stabbed into her abdomen. Jiang Hao turned and swung with a perfect arc. Once again, he severed the opponent's neck and stomped on them. By this time, others had fully recovered, but it was too late. The last Golden Core opponent tried to create a distance between them, but the long sword flew out and pierced into his body. In the next breath, Jiang Hao was already in front of him. Blood rained down. All 4 Golden Core realm opponents were severely injured. Only 3 frightened Foundation Establishment realm cultivators were left. You're a Golden Core realm cultivator. Are you really going to attack us Foundation Establishment cultivators? Asked a woman. A long knife swept across her neck. Jiang Hao moved past her toward the remaining 2 people. He was calm and cold. In the demonic sect, he was never weaker than opponents of the same level. Once he showed weakness, there would be many who wanted to harass him. Immediately, Jiang Hao defeated 1 Foundation Establishment realm cultivator, and when he reached the last one, someone shouted, "Stop." Without any hesitation, Jiang Hao's blade slashed across the opponent's neck, and then he dealt a heavy blow with his foot. He sighed as he watched the 7 people fall. In the upcoming days, there might be more problems. However, it would be fine after some time, as long as he didn't stand out too much. There weren't many people around in the morning to cause trouble. As for the Black Heaven sect, whether they intervened or not, their opinion of him remained the same. The Heavenly Note sect is indeed quite imposing, a man said coldly. His voice was loud. He approached from far away and finally landed not far from Jiang Hao. He was Yuan Cheng. He was also a true disciple of the Black Heaven sect. He was also at the late stage of the Soul Ascension realm. Yuan Cheng looked at Jiang Hao as if he would strike at any moment. Others arrived as well. Sichu Jian frowned. He never expected someone to be so bold. It was simply reckless. Ren Shuang looked at Jiang Hao and instinctively touched her neck. She recalled the past. This person in front of her was cold and merciless. He was terrifying. Imposing. A voice came from above. Isn't the Black Heaven sect even more imposing? You dare to attack us in our own sect at our sect's gates. Who gave you the right to be so brazen? Bai Yi landed in front of Jiang Hao and faced Yuan Cheng. Yuan Cheng snorted. Your sect's disciple killed our fellow disciples. We want justice. What's wrong with that? Bai Yi turned to Jiang Hao and asked, Junior brother, did you kill the Black Heaven sect's disciples? No. Jiang Hao shook his head. Hear that? Bai Yi looked at Yuan Cheng. So, if he says he didn't, someone asked. And if you randomly say he did, I'm supposed to just believe you? Bai Yi asked. What about the bodies on the ground? Someone asked. He massacred our fellow disciples. These. Bai Yi approached a golden core realm cultivator, who was breathing faintly. He extended his hand, gathered his technique, and then struck him. Boom. The golden core realm man was killed on the spot. Bai Yi calmly looked at the person who had spoken. You're right. He's dead. Everyone was stunned. Do you dare? Yuan Cheng was furious and his soul ascension realm aura burst forth. Boom. Bai Yi took a step forward. The two were evenly matched. Neither backed down. Is this how the Heavenly Note sect handles things? By ruthlessly killing their guests? Yuan Cheng said furiously. Ruthlessly killing everyone? Bai Yi sneered. Isn't that what your people did? We're just following your lead. Moreover, we're different from you. Today, my master is not here, but I have the right to represent the disciples of the Law Enforcement Hall. What about you? Can you represent the whole of Black Heaven sect? You. At this time, Liu Xingchen arrived in the air. Sorry for the disturbance. He was accompanied by a group of the Law Enforcement Hall disciples. Each one was at the Soul Ascension realm. There was even someone at the peak of Soul Ascension realm. Please come with us for an investigation. If you resist, we will consider it as a rebellion against our sect or a threat to the sect, and there's a possibility of being executed on the spot, Liu Xingchen said as his group surrounded all the disciples present, whether they were from the Black Heaven sect or the Heavenly Note sect. The Law Enforcement Hall was not to be trifled with. Bai Yi retracted his aura. Clearly, he knew that he shouldn't provoke the Law Enforcement Hall. At this moment, the Black Heaven sect disciple who had spoken earlier covered her mouth. She looked frightened. She never expected that the Heavenly Note sect would resort to killing just because she had asked some logical questions. This twisted and cruel behavior left her terrified and astounded. Ren Shuang was pale-faced. Jiang Hao was also surrounded by people. He was surprised. At first, he thought it would be the Law Enforcement Hall's disciple who would come for him first, but unexpectedly, it was senior brother Bai Yi who had come to his aid. He had even killed a disciple of the Black Heaven sect. The disciples from the Black Heaven sect now understood what a demonic sect was really like. Bai Yi could have just left and claimed this had nothing to do with him, but he stayed on. He was something else. He never intended to let others walk all over him. He had always been like that. He always intended to make his opponents suffer. These kinds of people were the most dangerous to offend. In the future, he needed to treat senior brother Bai Yi even more respectfully. Not long after being taken to the Law Enforcement Hall, Jiang Hao's cell door opened. Liu Xingchen told him to leave. Before leaving, he asked to see senior brother Bai Yi because he wanted to ask something. However, Liu Xingchen's answer made him feel strange. No problem, but senior brother Bai Yi just needs to be in solitary confinement for a while. He seems to go in there quite frequently, Liu Xingchen said. Jiang Hao felt puzzled. Senior brother Bai Yi was a regular in solitary confinement. What about the Black Heaven sect? Jiang Hao asked. That is more complicated. We need to investigate them further, Liu Xingchen said. Jiang Hao wasn't worried about them. He hadn't killed Murong Jing, but he was curious to know who did it. There were too many instances of demonic sound slash. It was impossible to speculate. As he flew back on his flying sword, a person appeared in front of him suddenly. It was the middle-aged man from before. It was Hai Ming. Chapter 562. Chapter 562. The conflict between the Heavenly Note sect and overseas powers. Chapter 562. The conflict between the Heavenly Note sect and overseas powers. Jiang Hao knew that Hai Ming was here to find him. He just didn't quite understand why Hai Ming was so interested. He decided to appraise Hai Ming. Once he got closer, he chose to assess the situation. The first time could be ignored, but the second time indicated that he was being watched, especially when he had killed someone from the Black Heaven sect. No one was willing to approach him. No one was sure how far the wrath of the Black Heaven sect would extend. If this person approached him, he had an ulterior motive. Looking at the divine feedback, Jiang Hao furrowed his brows. He thought of taking advantage of the situation and putting me in danger. Jiang Hao didn't quite understand. What had Hai Ming done to put him in danger? The only thing he could think of was the person who killed Murong Jing. But he wasn't sure. Regardless, the other party had changed their mind, so there was no need to worry about him trying to ruin Jiang Hao's life. Elder. Jiang Hao bowed respectfully. Young friend, you just came out of the law enforcement hall. It seems there's no trouble, Hai Ming said with a smile. Yes. I was wrongfully accused, and the law enforcement hall promised to investigate and clear things up, Jiang Hao said. He didn't mention that the law enforcement hall didn't dare to detain him longer because of his great merits. Perhaps this newly joined elder didn't understand the situation in the Heavenly Note sect. Having high merits carried a lot of privileges in the sect. Even the powerful law enforcement hall couldn't detain him easily. Young friend, did you get in trouble with the people of the Black Heaven sect? Hai Ming asked. No. Jiang Hao shook his head. It's all right. I don't really like them either. They are so narrow-minded, Hai Ming said with a smile. You've offended them, and I imagine you'll face retaliation. Luckily, I can escort you back for now. No matter how powerful they are, they wouldn't dare to take action. Jiang Hao pretended to be surprised. I wouldn't dare trouble an elder for this. No problem. Hai Ming waved his hand with a smile. It's just a small favor. I admire anyone daring enough to act against the Black Heaven sect. You don't need to worry about it. Jiang Hao declined multiple times, but in the end, he had to agree. So, Hai Ming escorted him back to the mountain gate. He didn't go all the way. This way, there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. Jiang Hao also breathed a sigh of relief. As Hai Ming had said, he was just escorting him. On the surface, it seemed that the other party was indeed sincere. However, Jiang Hao knew that this was just the beginning of his next plan, and there would be much more to come. The others gazed at Jiang Hao as he returned. They had assumed Jiang Hao would definitely lose, and even in defeat, he would have gained some glory. But they never expected that Jiang Hao, who was clearly about to lose, would counterattack. He fought his way through. He easily turned the table. This level of strength far surpassed those at the same level. Seeing junior brother's skill with a blade truly widened my horizons, Xia Kun said. He sounded reluctant, but his praise was genuine. Indeed, it had truly widened his horizons. Those strikes were remarkable. Kong Hu and others also chimed in. They had a whole new understanding of Jiang Hao's decisiveness and strength. However, they had once doubted whether Bloodwish Path could be this powerful. If Bloodwish Path was this powerful, who wouldn't cultivate it? Was he the only one who had taken the correct path of the Bloodwish Path? Regarding the praise from his seniors, Jiang Hao could only say that it was just luck. But he sensed that these three were more enthusiastic than before. It was because of his strength. This had both positive and negative effects. The positive was that some people would respect him, but the negative was that some would want to suppress him. Fortunately, he was currently guarding the mountain gate, so those who wanted to suppress him wouldn't act so recklessly. As time passed, fewer people cared about him. In the following days, many people from the Black Heavens sect arrived. Moreover, they were very strong. They were strong to the point where Jiang Hao couldn't see through their cultivation realm. These people weren't supposed to come now. Their early arrival was mostly due to the recent incidents. As these people entered the mountain gate, most of them looked at him. Some were sizing him up, while others had ill intentions. Some 100 kia at millimeter witna muriris intent. Jiang Hao knew that it would be difficult to reconcile with the Black Heaven sect. With the Black Heaven sect people entering, there was finally a resolution regarding Murongjing's murder. After an in-depth investigation by the Law Enforcement Hall, traces were found leading to overseas. It could be said that people from overseas took revenge on the Black Heaven sect due to their previous resentment. As for the other female immortal who was killed, the Law Enforcement Hall also conducted an investigation and ultimately found out that it was the work of the Saint Bandits. Because the Saint Bandits' plan was disrupted by the Heavenly Note sect, they had now come to sabotage the communication between the Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect. On that day, the higher-ups of the Heavenly Note sect expressed their anger. They said they were at odds with overseas and the Saint Bandits. They promised to kill them if they encountered them. They sought revenge for their fellow cultivators in the Black Heaven sect. Jiang Hao couldn't help but admire the Heavenly Note sect. When the Heavenly King Bu Dong was there, they claimed to be at odds with the Black Heaven sect. And now, shortly after they left, they declared themselves at odds with both the Black Heaven sect and overseas. As for the Saint Bandits, they were just thrown into the mix. After all, they were indeed at odds. This was just the general situation, and other matters needed to be addressed. For example, his situation with senior brother Bai Yi. For the stability of the two sects, some people would have to be sacrificed. And he was bound to be one of them. He just didn't know how the sect would handle it. He thought it wouldn't be too severe. If they were to punish him, making him work in the mines would be a great option. In the afternoon, Liu Xingchen met him with two people. Junior brother Jiang, we need your cooperation with something. Senior brother Liu, please tell me what I can do, Jiang Hao said politely. We need to visit your house. Would that be convenient now? Liu Xingchen asked. Jiang Hao looked at the three people. Junior brother Jiang, if you have something to attend to, please go ahead. We'll be fine here for a while, said Nan Yushu. Jiang Hao nodded and thanked them. He then followed Liu Xingchen and left. How do you think the Law Enforcement Hall will handle this? Asked Nan Yushu curiously as she watched them leave. Xia Kun and Kong who looked at Nan Yushu but didn't say anything. They felt like this person was doing it on purpose. A member of the Law Enforcement Hall was asking how her branch's disciple would handle the situation with Jiang Hao. When it finally dawned on him, Nan Yushu smiled awkwardly. I don't have accurate information, but I've heard that junior brother Jiang is going to be punished. Otherwise, it would be hard to justify things to the Black Heaven sect. No matter what, the higher-ups don't want to cause trouble with the Black Heaven sect. Kong Hu and Xia Kun also understood. At this moment, the sect needed stability, and it wasn't necessary to antagonize the Black Heaven sect. Chapter 563, Seizing the Thousand Faces Treasure Fan. Chapter 563, Seizing the Thousand Faces Treasure Fan. Senior brother, did you find out anything? Jiang Hao asked on the way. Under the attention of the Black Heaven sect, we conducted a simple investigation. It's not easy to find out the true culprits behind Murongjing and Anlu's deaths, Liu Xingchen said with a smile. But we can be sure that it was the work of two people. Such concealment indicates it's the work of someone from overseas and the Saint Bandits. Did the Black Heaven sect accept this? Jiang Hao asked curiously. How could it be that easy? After all, the Black Heaven sect is not familiar with those overseas, Liu Xingchen said helplessly. They are not that far from overseas. If they really wanted to take action, they could. The sect has considered many scenarios. In the end, they proposed compensation and punishment for those who took further action. That includes, Jiang Hao realized that Liu Xingchen was looking at him. He knew it was about him and senior brother Bai Yi. That wasn't surprising. What did the sect decide about the punishment? He asked. At the Black Heaven sect's request, they will inspect your residences to see if there are any relevant items. If those two people's belongings are found in your place, you will be implicated. If not, then you're in the clear, Liu Xingchen said. Jiang Hao remained calm. Since the incident before about the murder of the true disciple, he would never make the same mistake twice. At his courtyard in the Cliff of Broken Hearts, the four of them entered through the gate. The rich spiritual energy made the law enforcement hall disciples pause for a moment. This was a Golden Core Realm cultivator's residence. The concentration of spiritual energy here was many times stronger than where they were stationed. For a moment, they understood why the task hall was so interested in this junior. There must be quite a few spirit stones spent here. Did making talismans bring in so much? They were a little tempted to switch their jobs. But it was just a passing thought. Because making talismans also required talent, and if one didn't have enough talent, it would be a waste of time. Clearly, this junior had a talent for making talismans. They started the search. They only used their magical treasures for detection and didn't rummage through everything. Liu Xingchen looked around. Junior brother, this place is quite extraordinary. It was actually unexpected, Jiang Hao said. When I came back from outside, the spiritual energy suddenly became so rich. I still don't know why. Initially, the spiritual energy here was indeed a bit dense, but still within the expected range. The sudden richness in spiritual energy was suspicious, especially since he guessed that it was Bai Yi's work. Fortunately, the upgraded formation could prevent many people from probing further. Liu Xingchen didn't ask further questions and wasn't interested in the things in the courtyard. Sometimes, junior brother Jiang, you should take a good look at yourself, he said with a smile. Murong Jing clashed with you during the day, and at night, he was killed. Did you provoke someone else? Liu Xingchen's smile was filled with hidden meaning. Jiang Hao knew that Liu Xingchen was just curious and wanted to watch the drama. I haven't offended anyone lately. Jiang Hao shook his head. Based on his speculation, the one who did it might be Hai Ming. But how could he say that aloud without evidence? He could only pretend not to know. Do you know how the sect will punish senior brother Bai Yi? Liu Xingchen changed the topic. Confinement. Jiang Hao asked. Something like that. He will be confined for 6 months, and 3 months' worth of resources will be deducted from him, said Liu Xingchen. Then, he looked at Jiang Hao. Junior brother Jiang, you have to be careful. Even if no evidence is found, you would still have to pay 1,500 spirit stones as compensation and 5 years' worth of resources will be deducted from you. I think you are used to that by now. Jiang Hao was momentarily speechless. This punishment looked more severe than the one he got for Yun Ruo's death. However, when he thought about it properly, it was actually quite lenient. He had seriously injured 7 people this time and caused the death of 1. Moreover, he was already at the Golden Core Realm, so 1,500 spirit stones weren't that much. Even though the punishment isn't severe, the Black Heaven sect acknowledges it. However, they are also doing it for smooth communication between the two sects. But apart from those senior experts, there will always be people below who'll not let it go. Junior brother, be careful during this period. Don't rule out the possibility that they might take action against you, Liu Xingchen said. The people from the Black Heaven sect were different from those in the Heavenly Note sect. Heavenly Note sect wouldn't dare to kill fellow disciples in the sect. But the Black Heaven sect didn't care, and the Heavenly Note sect's rules couldn't control them. Once they killed someone and fled back to the Black Heaven sect, the Heavenly Note sect wouldn't be able to do anything. If the Black Heaven sect insisted that the culprit wasn't in their sect, what could the Heavenly Note sect do? They couldn't possibly launch an attack on a major sect. The 2 disciples of the Law Enforcement Hall came out of Jiang Hao's house shaking their heads. Liu Xingchen stood up. Since that's the case, junior brother, remember to submit 1,500 spirit stones soon as compensation. Starting today, the sect's resources will be deducted. Do you have any objections? No. Jiang Hao shook his head. When Liu Xingchen was about to leave, he kindly added, if junior brother were a true disciple, perhaps it wouldn't be like this. Jiang Hao nodded and thanked him. Recently, Liu Xingchen was always implying that Jiang Hao should become a true disciple. Perhaps that would make things more interesting for him. Of course, Jiang Hao wouldn't do that because it would be dangerous. Another 5 years' worth of resources lost. Jiang Hao sighed. But the matter was settled. He just needed to be careful about the Black Heaven sect's retaliation in the future. This was indeed troublesome. However, he also noticed that quite a few strong individuals from the Black Heaven sect had arrived. At this moment, the Black Heaven sect was immensely vigilant. Perhaps I can plan to seize the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Suddenly, Jiang Hao had an idea. Once he obtained the fan, he could not only pose as the true smiling San Sheng but also communicate with Feng Hua with that identity. He could also try to approach the end of all things. But there's no news about the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Moreover, even if there are fewer experts from the Black Heaven sect, it would still be difficult to escape once discovered. Although he had the golden rings, it still required a bit of time to take effect. I can inquire about the situation. If successful, many things would be easier to handle afterward. With smiling San Sheng's identity, he could try to interact with Feng Hua and also with the end of all things. It would be much easier. Furthermore, Hong Yuye seemed to be interested in the Dragon Pearl. In case they needed to go overseas, having the identity of smiling San Sheng would be much more convenient. Of course, everything needed to be done within one's limits. If it was too dangerous, he would just give up. He could continue to stay in the Heavenly Note sect. As time passed, his cultivation realm would also improve. That was the safest bet. The only trouble was that he couldn't stop Hong Yuye from doing what she wanted. At the 100 Flowers Lake, Hong Yuye was in the pavilion. She wore a red dress and her hair fluttered in the wind. Hai Ming has set his sights on Jiang Hao? Hong Yuye asked curiously. Yes, Baiji said respectfully. After my investigation, I have found out that it is probably related to the fish person. People suspect that Jiang Hao might have been the one who let the fish person out of the sect. Hai Ming believes that the fish person will definitely try to repay the favor, so he is keeping an eye on Jiang Hao. I have reason to believe that Hai Ming killed Murong Jing from the Black Heaven sect. During these days, he has roughly investigated Jiang Hao's techniques and arts. In terms of swordsmanship, there are two styles, demonic soundslash and moonslaying. Hai Ming couldn't imitate moonslaying, but he did emulate the demonic soundslash to kill the Black Heaven sect's disciples. As for moonslaying, I think the mastermind behind Jiang Hao taught him the technique. There might be more techniques we don't know about. Chapter 564, The Demoness L Gaze, 1. Chapter 564, The Demoness L Gaze, 1. And what is the fish person's secret? Asked Hong Yuye casually. She stood by the lake and sprinkled fish food in the water. Her gaze was fixed on the fishes. We don't know what the secret is yet, but it's possibly related to Heavenly King Bu Dong's hurried return, said Baiji. This secret seems to be closely related to overseas affairs. For now, I don't intend to get involved with it. Our main focus is on finding Feng Hua's main body. Additionally, we need to deal with the Black Heaven sect's provocations. The sect master remained silent. Shall we intervene with Hai Ming approaching Jiang Hao? Asked Baiji. No need to intervene for now. Continue with your investigation on Feng Hua's matter, said Hong Yuye. The arrival of the Black Heaven sect is likely due to the Shenyuan clan. It is said that their clan has received an inheritance and is now rapidly rising. They probably want to use us as a whetstone, said Baiji. Hong Yuye walked toward the pavilion. Baiji followed behind. The Shenyuan clan aspires to produce a Grand Earth Sovereign, Hong Yuye said softly. A Grand Earth Sovereign? Baiji was a bit puzzled. Hong Yuye entered the pavilion and sat down. With the inheritance they've obtained, they indeed have the qualifications. Should we disrupt their plans? Baiji asked. Hong Yuye glanced at Baiji, who lowered her head in fear. Maybe cooperate with them for now, said Hong Yuye. But what if they do produce a Grand Earth Sovereign? Hong Yuye chuckled. What of it? Those few words sent shivers down Baiji's spine. Indeed, the sect master was the sect master. She was so different from her. Baiji calmed herself and reported on other matters. Heavenly King Hai Luo has become quite obedient lately and is even cooperating with us. I don't know what method Jiang Hao used to make him so compliant. Currently, we know that the Great Thousand God sect is monitoring the 4 regions and overseas. They seem to have deeper secrets. Baiji stole a glance at the person before her. Hong Yuye sipped her tea. We have made no progress regarding the Heaven Lock technique, but we've made a new discovery related to Jiang Hao. What is it? Hong Yuye asked. Yinshaw has been acting strangely since her return. We found out from Nangong Yu that Yinshaw met Jiang Hao. She was told to pass a message to him from someone from the depths of the sea fog cave, said Baiji. Hong Yuye's eyes flickered with interest. What was the message? Baiji shook her head. We don't know. When we asked Yinshaw again, she couldn't speak. It seems to be a method from the depths of the sea fog cave. She can only utter the message to the relevant person. I haven't asked Jiang Hao about it yet. Do as you see fit, Hong Yuye said. Baiji didn't understand what the sect master wanted her to do. But if the sect master told her to do whatever she wanted, she had the freedom to do it. For now, she would postpone this matter. She didn't know if it would affect the Heaven Lock or attract the attention of the figure in the depths of the cave. Judging from all aspects, she couldn't match the figure in the depths of the sea fog cave. She needed to be cautious. In the following days, Jiang Hao guarded the mountain gate. When he left, he always felt someone was watching him, but no one made a move. Just a couple of days later, he sensed that someone was about to attack him. The signs were obvious. It was obvious to the point that it didn't seem like an assassination attempt at all. It was as if the person was afraid that he wouldn't notice it. At the same time, he was startled when he saw a figure in the distance walking toward him. The person exuded a formidable aura. It was Hai Ming. Young friend, are you heading back already? Hai Ming asked. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly. Thank you, senior. The person who intended to attack him had long since fled. Jiang Hao knew that the hidden person had been just putting on a show. It was probably someone from the Black Heaven sect. No problem. I was just passing by, Hai Ming said. I happened to be heading to the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Shall we go together? Sure. Jiang Hao nodded. On the way, Hai Ming chatted with him. He mostly talked about the increasing number of people from the Black Heaven sect, especially the stronger ones. Some of them were from the Law Enforcement Hall of the Black Heaven sect, who were fierce in their methods and skillful in concealment and killing. After listening for a long time, Jiang Hao finally understood that Hai Ming was warning him that it was currently very dangerous and would become even more dangerous for him in the future. But he pretended not to understand his insinuations. When they arrived at the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Jiang Hao bid farewell to Hai Ming. The latter seemed indifferent. I wonder how long he'll put this up. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly. In theory, he couldn't endure this for too long. After all, if the secret wasn't discovered in time, he might lag behind. A little while later, Jiang Hao returned to his residence and glanced at the spirit beast lying next to the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. He felt that something was wrong. Does the spirit beast look different? On a closer look, its face was swollen, and it was unconscious. Jiang Hao knew that Hong Yuye was here. He looked around but didn't find anyone. However, he noticed a red figure in the sky from the corner of his eye. When he looked up, he saw a woman sitting on the balcony. She was bathed in moonlight and appeared ethereal, like a celestial being. The woman lowered her head to look at him. That glance was like a gentle breeze that brushed over his face. He felt his mind blur as though her beauty had blinded him. Soon, he lowered his head and addressed her as senior. He felt his heart flutter. He almost lost his composure. Your beast seems quite unruly. Is it following your lead? Hong Yuye asked. Chapter 565, Chapter 565, The Demoness Gaze, 2. Chapter 565, The Demoness Gaze, 2. She sounded indifferent. Senior, you must be joking. It got nothing from me, Jiang Hao said. That deceitful beast and its lies had nothing to do with him. However, Hong Yuye's visit was somewhat unexpected. He was running out of time. He had only returned to get the stone tablet because he needed to attend a gathering. He had come back today primarily because the stone slab had reacted and needed to attend the gathering. Now, with little time left, it seemed he would enter the gathering under Hong Yuye's gaze. He wasn't worried, but he was a bit uneasy. Hong Yuye chuckled. After a while, Jiang Hao brewed a pot of tea and discussed the matter of the gathering. Hong Yuye remained silent as she sipped her tea. The Shenyuan clan visited you? Yes, but not many. I haven't seen any particularly special Shenyuan powerful individuals. Jiang Hao nodded. Do you know why they came? Hong Yuye glanced at Jiang Hao. They want to rise up the ranks. They came for the Grand Earth Sovereign. The Shenyuan clan is the most likely to produce the Grand Earth Sovereign. In the past, without their inheritance, they had no opportunity or qualification. Now, with the return of their ancient inheritance and the appearance of the Heavenly Tao Establishment Foundation, they have a chance. Jiang Hao was quite shocked to learn there were so many reasons. Do you know how the Shenyuan clan reclaimed their inheritance? Hong Yuye sipped her tea. I don't know. Jiang Hao shook his head. Hong Yuye's hand suddenly paused on her teacup. She looked meaningfully at the person opposite her and smiled. Is that so? Jiang Hao remained silent. The thoughts of the powerful were difficult for him to fathom. After a while, Jiang Hao realized the time for the gathering was close. He sat on the balcony. There was no need to conceal anything. Hong Yuye wanted people to know that there was nowhere to hide. In just a few breaths, Jiang Hao arrived in the public area. He sat in his designated position. He could only quickly review today's preparations because he didn't have much time to prepare at the last moment. Fortunately, there wasn't much to prepare. There shouldn't be any unexpected events this time. After greeting Senior Dan Yuan, the four of them sat cross-legged. Do you have any questions about cultivation? Dan Yuan asked. Jiang Hao was silent, and Gui was too. Xing was still cultivating his avatar. And Liu seemed to be in a less than optimal state. They asked some cautious questions. Dan Yuan answered each question meticulously. Afterward, they asked about Heaven Lock. All of them turned to look at Jiang Hao. They knew that the topic was related to Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao had thought about this situation for a long time. He hesitated for a while before he said in a low voice, the content of Heaven Lock cannot be viewed directly. The others were shocked. They were all wondering what he meant. Was it because someone had already viewed it? Jiang Hao had already seen Heaven Lock. Gui was indeed the indispensable member that everyone acknowledged. She was the first to say, Friend Jiang has seen it. Jiang Hao did not deny it. Heaven Lock was not something he could conceal. It belonged to the Heavenly Note sect. So, revealing a little about it wasn't a big deal. Young friend, do you think that if a strong individual were to go to the Heavenly Note sect, could they borrow Heaven Lock to take a look? Dan Yuan asked softly. Jiang Hao thought about it and nodded. It's possible. If it were him, he would definitely not lend it, but Elder Baiji did not know the content of Heaven Lock. It was not impossible to let Dan Yuan borrow it for a while. But he wondered if it would cause trouble because he had Heaven Lock and no one else. Young friend, is there anything you want? Dan Yuan didn't wait for next time. The specific location of the Thousand Faces treasure fan, Jiang Hao said. This was what he had thought of before. If it were in the past, he definitely wouldn't have asked that. Now that his impression was established, if he asked about it, they would only think there was a deeper reason for his question. When Xing heard about the Thousand Faces treasure fan, he knew what Jiang Hao wanted to do. He thought this identity had been used a long time ago. He didn't think much about it. Dan Yuan was just about to respond when Gui said, Friend Jiang, are you busy lately? The Thousand Faces treasure fan was taken to the Heavenly Note sect by someone from the Dark Sky sect. It's said to be in Elder Duanmu Xiong's hands, but it's actually in Elder Shenyuan Hu's hands. They are trying to lure Smiling San Sheng into their trap. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised. Gui was actually impressive. She knew so much. Do you have some free time, Gui? Dan Yuan suddenly asked. Yes. Gui nodded. Then, friend Jing is unavailable. May I ask you for a small favor? Dan Yuan asked. Could you go to the Heavenly Note sect and retrieve the Thousand Faces treasure fan? As for who to leave it with, let's leave it with friend Jing's confidant, Jiang Hao. The reward can be stacked on top of the previous one, and we will soon be able to offer Snow God pills. Gui was somewhat surprised and nodded in agreement. Then, Dan Yuan looked at Jiang Hao and smiled. Let's use the Thousand Faces treasure fan as your reward. How about that? Jiang Hao was quite surprised, but to expose himself was indeed troublesome. He hesitated but remained composed. With utmost respect, he said, "Thank you, Senior." This was something he hadn't expected. He didn't think that Senior Dan Yuan would directly give the Thousand Faces treasure fan. He had to face Gui, though. He wondered if the courtyard's formations could block Gui's gaze. Gui, have you made any gains in the Imperial City recently? Dan Yuan asked Gui. The others also looked over. This time it was about the Saint Bandits. I have. Gui nodded. Can you tell us? Dan Yuan nodded. I found Ji Shueji and learned some information about the Saint Bandits from her, Gui said. The Saint Bandits created Heaven Lock back then. They shook the world and intervened in the affairs of the heavens and all clans. No one could stop their path forward. Their goal was absolute. What was it? Liu asked curiously. The goal? He couldn't imagine how they had shaken the world. Jiang Hao was also very curious. He felt that the Saint Bandits must have had extraordinary ambitions. Gui seemed to be waiting for people to ask for more information. Great unity of heaven and earth. Others might not understand, but Jiang Hao somewhat understood it. The Saint Bandits' original idea was to eliminate the differences between the heavenly and earthly races and achieve unity. Perhaps others didn't, but Jiang Hao believed it. Why would people of such great talent steal other people's talents? How could they be despised by the heavens and earth? However, what they had done didn't seem to be approved of. Where exactly did they go wrong? Jiang Hao didn't know. He agreed with this ideal of unity, but that didn't mean he agreed with the Saint Bandits' methods. Perhaps as time passed, they forgot their original intentions. What does the unity of heaven and earth specifically mean? Xing was very curious. Those 4 words carried considerable weight. Gui just smiled and remained silent. After being stared at for a while, she could only shrug and say, I don't know. Ji Shueji said she doesn't know either. Then, everyone looked at Senior Dan Yuan. It should be related to talents and different races, Dan Yuan said. From some of Gui's information, we can see that their plan involves all races within the mountains and seas. Perhaps the unity of heaven and earth is about eradicating differences among the races. Such bold ideals. Liu was shocked. They had never had a good impression of the Saint Bandits. But they didn't expect the other party to be this kind of person. Everything eventually returns to the source, but their path differs from ours. Admiration is in its place, but our interests are incompatible, Xing said and looked at Gui. So what happened to the Saint Bandits in the end? Wasn't it said that no one could stop them? Chapter 566, Chapter 566. Too simple. I dare not speak. Chapter 566. Too simple. I dare not speak. The Saint Bandits were undoubtedly stopped in the end, but very few people present knew how they were stopped. Jiang Hao was in the same boat. He wasn't familiar with the secrets, and the only source of information he could rely on was Hong Yuye. But it seemed like she didn't know much either. Regarding the matters of the Saint Bandits, there seemed to be very little record. The Heavenly Spirit tribe might know quite a bit, but entering their clan and seeing those records was no easy task. Even Senior Dan Yuan had to ask around to make sure. Gui didn't keep them in suspense but said, it was the Shenyuan clan that used the ancestral dragon's heart to completely seal the Saint Bandits. The ancestral dragon's heart actually represents the current state of the Shenyuan clan. According to what Ji Shueji said, even if the seal is broken by the Saint Bandits, the ancestral dragon's heart won't leave, it will continue to exert influence. Once the Shenyuan clan begins to revive, the ancestral dragon's heart will choose to stay or leave based on whether the seal is broken. Now that the ancestral dragon's heart has left, it signifies the rise of the Shenyuan clan. I have also heard that it seems the Shenyuan clan has regained the inheritance. As for how they regained it, it's unknown. Jiang Hao was surprised. He lowered his head. He had helped with the inheritance, but he didn't know there were such complexities involved. The ancient flower could actually affect the ancestral dragon's heart. It was quite unexpected that the Shenyuan clan and the Saint Bandits were from the same era. Does this mean that the Shenyuan clan and the Saint Bandits are not enemies? Liu suddenly asked. It's unlikely, Xing said. At least the founder of the Saint Bandits probably doesn't think much of the current Shenyuan clan. The Shenyuan clan is somewhat weak now. Jiang Hao agreed. He knew that Xing was putting it mildly. The current Shenyuan clan was far beyond just weak. They had no presence, not even as much as the current royal family. But considering they had existed for so many years, they did have a little bit of foundation. However, most of this foundation stemmed from the Black Heaven sect. Shenyuan clan couldn't compare to the Saint Bandits who had swooped into the Bright Moon sect to disrupt the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. Doesn't this mean that the Shenyuan clan has no hope of rivaling the Saint Bandits? Gui asked. They are still after the disciples of the Heavenly Note sect. When will they have the opportunity to intervene with the Bright Moon sect? Jiang Hao hesitated for a moment. The Shenyuan clan went to the Heavenly Note sect for the sake of the Grand Earth Sovereign. Grand Earth Sovereign? Gui said. It seems likely, but do they have a chance? The Shenyuan clan are guardians of the mountains and seas. This kind of guardianship is almost non-existent. As long as there is one, they have a significant advantage over other royal families, Stars said. Not just that. Everyone looked at Dan Yuan. The appearance of the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment will also be because of their help. If the Shenyuan clan seizes the opportunity, they can indeed rise all the way. Will they become the new royal family? Gui asked. No. Dan Yuan shook his head. Jiang Hao and the others were puzzled. No longer needed that kind of royal family. It seemed that the Shenyuan clan had been indeed extraordinary. The appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign would not be an ordinary event. With everything coming to an end, will the Saint Bandits also take action? Liu asked. The last time the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment appeared, the commotion was far from ordinary. Even sects like the Bright Moon sect needed to seek help. The appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign is probably what they're waiting for, but the Grand Earth Sovereign doesn't have specific characteristics. It is difficult to know, said Dan Yuan. The Saint Bandits mostly want to seize the Grand Earth Sovereign. Aside from that, the ones who will really take action should be the Fallen Immortal Clan. The Fallen Immortal Clan was once known as the Immortal Clan. Later, they were thoroughly defeated by some people and fell into the mortal realm. Was that also the work of the Shenyuan clan? Xing was surprised. Dan Yuan nodded but didn't explain too much. Jiang Hao felt quite emotional. The Shenyuan clan of the past was truly remarkable. Seeing that everyone was quiet, Gui said, in fact, what I've found out is not just that. I have found a way to find the ancestral dragon's heart. The meaning was clear. She wanted to make a trade. Feel free to speak, Gui. With the previous reward, it should be enough for a snow god pill, Dan Yuan said gently. Gui was quite delighted. Go to the Abyssal Sea and use something related to the dragon race. With that, there's a chance to summon the ancestral dragon's heart. Jiang Hao was speechless. What he originally planned to use was not possible now. But it didn't matter. He didn't need to compete with the people in the gathering. Everyone knew, and it wouldn't showcase his prowess. Moreover, competing with them would seem petty. It wouldn't affect his plan. It was okay to take a step back. It was also good to be friendly with others. Something related to dragons? Liu thought for a moment. Would a flood dragon work? Perhaps a flood dragon that's about to transform into a true dragon might work, and I happen to have one, said Gui. She glanced at Jiang Kao. This was the first time she had traded with him. She always felt it was too risky to do that. Liu nodded. Then, he turned to Dan Yuan. Senior, if I want to sell this information, what kind of reward would be asked? No need for a reward. Let Gui speak. I just hope you all spread the information, said Dan Yuan in an amusing voice. Everyone wondered what he was thinking. Jiang Kao thought for a moment and realized he didn't have anything related to the dragon race on him. However, he did have a dragon, but the ancestral dragon's heart didn't seem to be the abyssal dragon pearl mentioned by the fish people. But that was all right. Even if Hong Yuya had to go overseas, it wouldn't be soon. What needed attention now was the fallen immortal clan. Due to Jiyu Qing, the fallen immortal clan was likely to target him. The matter about the Saint Bandits was discussed, and then they discussed the tasks related to Senior Dan Yuan. Next was the trading segment. I have a formation here and would like to see if you have a way to deal with it, said Xing. He looked at Senior Dan Yuan, and a stone slab appeared in the middle. A simple formation appeared in front of everyone. Jiang Kao could tell that this was a trapping formation. How can this be undone? Xing looked at everyone. It was too simple. In fact, it was so simple that the formation could be unraveled with just casual writing. But if it was really that simple, why would Xing seek help? Jiang Kao didn't think of himself as a 1 in a million genius, so he didn't dare to speak up. It would be best for Gui to speak up first. Sure enough, Gui lived up to expectations. Is this formation as simple as I think it is? Chapter 567, Chapter 567, How many things do you owe me? Chapter 567, How many things do you owe me? Gui spoke up. However, everyone was looking at Xing. The formation was definitely not as simple as it appeared. This formation has a strange aspect, Xing said. Any solution is useless. Typically, breaking a part of the formation, modifying a part, or utilizing a part can unlock it. But none of that has worked. Any modification is instantly repaired, and any dismantled parts are restored. You cannot use any of the nodes or patterns on it. So, this seemingly simple trapping formation leaves us helpless. Everyone was puzzled. How could that be solved? Jiang Kao certainly had no idea, but he thought of someone. Mi Ling Yu. She was a master at formations. However, he couldn't meet her for now. Otherwise, he could have sought her guidance. Do any of you have any clues to share with me? Xing asked. The others nodded, but they couldn't think of any relevant solutions for the time being. This required knowledge of formations and couldn't be solved just by having high cultivation realms. In the gathering, it seemed that no one was particularly skilled in formations except Xing, who had brought the issue up. While the conversation continued for a while, the gathering came to an end at the reminder of Senior Dan Yuan. When Jiang Kao opened his eyes, he saw Hong Yuya still drinking tea. Is it over? She asked in a melodious voice. Jiang Kao nodded. Yes. There was a lot of information this time. He then started by sharing the news about the Heaven Lock technique and how someone wanted to borrow it from the Heavenly Note sect. Do you think the Heavenly Note sect will agree to lend it? Hong Yuya asked curiously. In theory, they should. Elder Baiji obtained the Heaven Lock technique and then gave it to me. No one within the entire Heavenly Note sect could translate it. I also can't translate it at the moment. If a powerful individual is willing to share what they see in the technique, there's no reason not to agree. If that person is too powerful, the Heavenly Note sect has no right to refuse. If that person isn't very powerful, then they won't have the ability to do much. Do you think an expert will be able to comprehend the Heaven Lock technique? Hong Yuya asked. Jiang Kao shook his head. I don't know. Hong Yuya smiled faintly. In theory, what would happen if the Heaven Lock technique was known to more people? It would cause a massive commotion, Jiang Kao said. While other information being known was not a problem, the Heaven Lock technique was something to be avoided. Just knowing it was dangerous. Once it spread, someone would inevitably come to ask about it. Could Heavenly Note sect refuse if it was someone powerful? Jiang Kao took out the Heaven Lock technique and said earnestly, so, I would like to ask you for a favor, Senior. Please seal the first third of the Heaven Lock technique. Seeing the Heaven Lock technique on the table, Hong Yuye extended her hand and opened it. Jiang Hao couldn't look directly at it, but he could see that Hong Yuye was unaffected. Well, I could help you, but I would need to take something away in return from you. Do you remember how many things you owe me? Hong Yuye pressed her palm against the Heaven Lock technique. Her palm glowed. The beginning part of the Heaven Lock technique seemed to be obscured and difficult to discern. Jiang Hao thought for a while. 4 things. The first favor was when he had asked her for help at Xiao Li's village. The second favor was for helping with healing himself. The third was for crushing the Heaven Lock stone, and now the fourth was to seal the Heaven Lock technique. Hong Yuye smiled gently. So, have you decided whether you'll lose an arm or a? With that, she retracted her slender hand, and the Heaven Lock technique became invisible once again. It fell in front of Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao silently retrieved the item without saying a word. He feared that speaking up would indeed cost him an arm or a leg. He would find a way to avoid this problem in the future. However, he still didn't know Hong Yuye's level of cultivation realm. He could only confirm that it must be above the Immortal Ascension platform. After that, he briefly mentioned the matter of the Thousand Faces treasure fan. It wouldn't be long before he could contact Feng Luo. Hong Yuye remained silent. It seemed that this matter had little to do with her. After some hesitation, Jiang Hao asked, Senior, what do you think the unity of heaven and earth is? Hong Yuye gave Jiang Hao a meaningful look. You can ask the Saint Bandits that question yourself. By now, you've made an impression on them, and it won't be long before you encounter them again. At that time, you should think about how to escape from their clutches. Jiang Hao was speechless. It made him feel like he couldn't escape from Hong Yuye. Staying here and tending to the flowers was the safest option. He just didn't know when the Saint Bandits would emerge. If enough time passed, perhaps they could have a conversation on equal terms. Afterward, Jiang Hao drew out the formation that Xing had provided and explained the situation. Hong Yuye didn't say anything. She seemed completely disinterested. Next were some observations. The secret location related to the fallen immortal clan, discontent among the various heavenly kings regarding Hai Luo, and the ongoing search for the end of all things. Any news about the abyssal Dragon Ball? Asked Hong Yuye. I asked the fish people, but the information got mixed up. We're still waiting, Jiang Hao said. From this, he confirmed that the ancestral dragon's heart and the dragon pearl were 2 different things. Both could potentially appear in the abyssal sea. Hong Yuye was very interested in the dragon clan. Once there was news, they might need to make a trip overseas. They would have to delay the progress with the fish people and get the Thousand Faces treasure fan first. Jiang Hao also needed to wait for the end of the gate-guarding mission. During that period, they might have to deal with the Black Heaven sect and the fallen immortal clan. Furthermore, Hai Ming would also turn out to be troublesome. Chapter 568, Chapter 568, Matters of Interest to the Demoness. Chapter 568, Matters of Interest to the Demoness. After discussing the abyssal dragon pearl, Hong Yuye fell silent. She sat quietly and occasionally glanced at the courtyard. The balcony had expanded now, and it was more spacious to sit there. It offered a better view. The river outside was visible, and the starry sky looked like a beautiful scene right before their eyes. It felt that even speaking loudly would disturb the peace. Jiang Hao, who was sitting across from Hong Yuye, was deep in thought while sipping his tea. He still had azure red tea. After a while, Jiang Hao was sure that the contents of the gathering didn't pique Hong Yuye's interest. Regardless of whether it was about the ancestral dragon's heart or the origin of the Saint Bandits. He continued sipping tea and waited for her to leave. An hour had passed since leaving the mountain gate. He needed to bring a gift when he went back. While he was contemplating what to bring, Hong Yuye suddenly spoke up. Have you met King Hai Luo? Though puzzled by the question, Jiang Hao nodded. Yes. Did he go to the abyssal sea? Hong Yuye asked. No. Jiang Hao shook his head. Seeing that Hong Yuye didn't want to ask anything further, he seemed to understand why she asked about King Hai Luo. I found out the reason he came to the Heavenly Note sect, he said. And the reason? Hong Yuye asked. The reason he came to the Heavenly Note sect was to enter the Lawless Tower, and the main reason for entering the tower was because of Miao Anxian, Jiang Hao said. It is said that the Lawless Tower can suppress his luck, and Miao Anxian vied for his king's fortune, so there is a certain possibility that King Hai Luo's fortune might be bestowed upon Miao Anxian in the Abyssal Sea. Perhaps he believes that if Miao Anxian possesses his luck, she can survive. So, you're saying he believes Miao Anxian is still alive? Hong Yuye asked. I don't know, Jiang Hao said truthfully, then proceeded to ask what he had wanted to ask for a long time. What do you think King's fortune is? This question had puzzled him for a long time, but he never knew how to ask it. It was even inappropriate to ask others. It would be troublesome to ask at the gathering. It could easily make him appear ignorant. He couldn't ask Gui and the others either. What he feared most was that they all knew, and no matter how he tried to ask, it would be futile. They might even turn the question back on him, and then it would truly be shooting oneself in the foot. Hong Yuye looked at him for a moment and gently said, it's similar to the royal family but different. King's fortune is the power bestowed upon an individual by the sea, while the royal family shares power as a group. In the sea, King's fortune can greatly enhance an individual's cultivation speed and personal strength. Let's hypothetically consider your sect master. If she had King's fortune and was overseas, then 10 of her previous selves combined would not be a match for her. King Hai Luo is that powerful. Jiang Hao was shocked. So, is it easy to obtain King's fortune? He asked. Hong Yuye gave him a glance and calmly said, is it easy to become a member of the royal clan? Jiang Hao understood that becoming a heavenly king was indeed not easy. It was no wonder King Hai Luo still was in the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm, but he could still maintain his position as the heavenly king when he returned. However, his cultivation was lower, and he was not as stable as before. Are you saying that once King's fortune is given away, King Hai Luo won't be a heavenly king anymore? Jiang Hao was alarmed. Is it worth it? Hong Yuye chuckled and sipped her tea. Jiang Hao didn't dwell on it any longer. Whether it was worth it or not depended on how King Hai Luo viewed it. He didn't want to get involved in such matters, as it could easily bring trouble upon himself. This was particularly true for matters concerning Shong'an. However, he didn't know where he was now and whether he was heading toward the Heavenly Note sect. Regardless, he still needed to face Shong'an. Judging from his personality, there was no danger. He still didn't want to see him. Suddenly, it drizzled. This surprised Jiang Hao, but he quickly used his techniques to shield himself from the rain. However, he was a little late, and the rain had already fallen on Hong Yuye. Even her teacup had caught some raindrops. She placed the teacup on the table and raised her hand. Jiang Hao's heart skipped a beat. He knew he would be sent flying back. He wouldn't be able to escape. But Hong Yuye simply patted her clothes and adjusted her hair. It was different from what Jiang Hao had expected. It made him feel uneasy. What are you thinking about? Hong Yuye asked as she held her teacup. I was wondering why it's raining today, Jiang Hao said. Because someone is attempting to attack your sect, said Hong Yuye casually. Attack? Jiang Hao was puzzled. You just said that the fallen immortal clan has a grudge against the Shenyuan clan. Now that the Shenyuan clan is about to rise again, how could the fallen immortal clan let it go? Hong Yuye asked. This rain is an attack? Jiang Hao asked. Hong Yuye remained silent. He quietly took a pun and placed it outside to collect the rainwater. Afterward, the two of them stayed silent, only listening to the sound of rain and sipping their tea. It was only when the teapot was emptied that Hong Yuye slowly withdrew her hand holding the cup. She lowered her head and looked at the teacup for a long while before fading away. My flower hasn't changed for a long time. Jiang Hao looked at the teapot, quietly put it away, and then took the cup that was placed outside. He appraised it. Since Hong Yuye mentioned it was an attack, then it must be an attack. He couldn't understand it, probably due to the vast difference in realms and abilities. Since that was the case, he would compensate with his divine abilities. Jiang Hao was quite surprised. Then, he circulated his blood and spiritual energy, and an invisible fire ignited within him. There was no sensation, but he should be fine now. Glancing down at the beast, he realized it hadn't been drenched in the rain. It put his mind at ease. As for Lin Ji and the others, they should all be resting in their rooms at this time. Even if Xiao Li ran around, it wouldn't matter. Being a dragon, her blood and spiritual energy surpassed that of ordinary people. Despite her childlike appearance, she was a true dragon. After that, he left his accommodation and headed toward the mountain gate. He had a feeling that he might encounter quite a few things in the coming days. He also needed to be cautious of Gui's arrival. She would definitely be in disguise. He had to be cautious. At the mountain gate, Jiang Hao gave a heavenly sword talisman to the others to express his apology. He also explained the reason for his absence. He made an excuse that his spirit pet was injured. This time, the beast was truly injured. Nan Yushu and the others accepted the talisman and smiled. For their cultivation realm, this talisman was like a useless item, but it could be sold for money. Why did it suddenly rain today? It feels a bit unusual, Kong Hu said. Xia Kun shook his head. He didn't feel anything was off about the rain. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,